Chill gives me all the news. I found out about Klay because of Chill. Chill, the one who be sending me all the news. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the panel. Ron is not here. Ox is not here. They left me with the hosting duties, so I am your host today. I know some people ain't gonna be happy about that, but oh well.
Get booted halfway through this show. I bet.
No, I'm a good host. I don't boo people. I'm a very civil host. But hello everyone. Hello Chill. Hello Swipe. Welcome to the show.
Black man. What's up, brother?
Hello Pen. Good to have you again. But I think because yesterday people were mad that we didn't talk about Paul George to the Sixers.
I was mad. As a viewer, I was upset.
Yes, I feel like we have to start with that. I feel like we have. I know we got to talk about Klay Thompson and the Warriors and going to Dallas, which we will. But I feel like we have to start with talking about Paul George to the Sixers to appease the angry fans from yesterday. So I'm gonna go straight to Chill. Paul George, 4 years with the Sixers, 200+ million. How do you feel about the move?
I feel like it supplements what the biggest issue that they have is, which is their one guy, which is Joel Embiid. And I find people, we talked about this yesterday, Mars, when Chris Paul signed with the San Antonio Spurs, people hear the name Chris Paul. They immediately associate that with him being what he used to be. They hear Paul George. They immediately associate that with him being Paul George from Oklahoma City. They immediately, when in reality, he's not that anymore. And with him being with the Philadelphia 76ers, what's going to happen is Joel Embiid's going to break down at some point during the season, and Paul George is going to have to pick up the slack on some level, and they're going to expect him to pick it up like he did in Oklahoma City. They're going to expect him to pick it up like he did when he was with Indiana, and that's just not who he is anymore. Is he still elite? I do think he's still elite, but he's not what he used to be, and because of that, that's going to be a problem for them. Now, he's an upgrade from Tobias Harris. I won't argue that. I do think that he's still better than Tobias Harris. I still think that he gives them a wing scorer that they didn't have. In the process of giving them a wing scorer, I do think he's a reputation defender, but I still think that he can defend. I don't think he's a cone, but I still think that he can defend. But I don't think that this move pushes them over the top in the Eastern Conference. No, I don't.
So you're a hater. Pen?
Yeah, Paul George last year, he was good, man. I mean, you make a case that if you wanted to win, I mean, I'm a big Kawhi fan, obviously, but he's been better for them for the last 3-4 years. He's been more consistent. He's been more stable. He's been more available. Best ability is availability, right?
Yeah. So, talking about
Kawhi and Paul George.
You said Paul George has been best player?
If you aggregate value over health, right? I'm not talking peak Paul. I'm not talking peak Kawhi. I'm not talking Kawhi for 2 games.
Just from an availability standpoint,
like the same way VORP is a cumulative stat.
We're bringing that back.
Man, we never getting off the VORP. We never getting off.
No, but I'm helping you. I'm saying
it's a great analytic.
Oh, 100%. It's fantastic.
What I'm
Paul George because he plays more.
Yeah, I mean, Kawhi is amazing. Like he's the better player. But if you play 30% of your games and the other guy plays 60% of your games and he's like 10% worse than you.
Didn't Paul George miss a whole year himself though, for the most part?
No.
Did they? No.
Whole year?
No. Oh no, he didn't miss a whole year. He played 31 games, I think, that year and then he obviously didn't play.
I mean, what I'm trying to say is that Paul George.
Did we lose him? I think we lost him.
I think we lost him a little bit.
We lost him.
Ton of.
There we go. You're back.
We didn't hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
We got him back.
You said Paul George and then you cut.
That was the last thing we heard.
My bad.
Yeah.
So we're having some internet issues over here. So yeah, I mean, I think he fits into a lot of situations. He can play off the ball. He can play, multiple positions. If you need him to slide in as a small ball forward, he can do that for you. If you need him to be like more of an initiator guy, he could do that for you. I agree with Showtime that he's not the player that he used to be, but who the hell is at 34, right? Everyone's had to adapt. Michael Jordan had to adapt, right?
But Penn, wouldn't that be the issue? Because they're not bringing Paul George into Philadelphia for him to just be a complimentary piece like I see him. They're bringing him into Philadelphia to be the difference in them winning and losing.
That is complimentary though. He's definitively their third guy,
now,
in my opinion.
Sure, but here's the difference. The difference is with him being a complimentary guy, you expect complementary production. When Joel Embiid goes down, they're going to expect him to be more than a complementary player. Is he more than a complementary player? On some level, yes, but he's not what he used to be, and they're going to expect that from him. They're going to expect him to, in addition to Maxey, they're going to expect him to take over the reins. Whenever Joel Embiid goes down, if however long he goes down, they're going to expect him to pick up the slack for what Joel Embiid not being around lacks. And the problem is can he do that? He can only do that for a certain amount of time because that's not who Paul George is anymore.
Okay. I get it that he's not a top 5, top 10 player. And I understand, in OKC, he was a top 3 MVP. So you're saying he fell off from that. I get you. But if he hadn't fallen off from that, he's certainly not coming in to be the third option, right? So let me ask you a question. Is he the best third option in the NBA?
If I think about third options in the league, is Paul George better than Porzingis?
Yes.
Okay. I'm thinking about third options in the NBA, but also I think we're moving away from that because when you say third option, Penn, I think we're moving away from that super team thing. I think the third option is more of a good player who's more of a utility guy than he is a star. And
is he better than Celtics Ray Allen?
Yes,
because that was the initial third option. Is he better than Heat Chris Bosh?
No.
Yeah, because Chris Bosh was in his prime. But I mean, it's not that far. It's not that far. I'm not hating on Chris Bosh, but it's not that far. I mean, I think Paul George is catching strays because people don't like him. People don't like Paul George. I may not like Paul George. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change who he is as a basketball player. Me liking him, not liking him, him promising to come back, retire, with the Clips, deliver a ring to the Clips. I feel like some people just get a reputation, and we don't see the basketball anymore. We just see the person. Paul George is a very controversial figure in basketball right now. I'm just saying, as a basketball fit, this is great. It gives you a 2-year window. Do I believe he's going to be worth $58 million in 4 years? No, I don't. I barely think he's worth what he's being paid right now. What he's being paid right now to do is open a window of contention for Joel Embiid and a very good player in Tyrese Maxey, if not like a great player in Tyrese Maxey. That's the best trio in basketball right now, in my opinion. And I don't like 2 of those guys, and I'm saying that. So I'm just being real objective.
Which 2 do you not like?
Joel Embiid and Paul George. I love Tyrese Maxey.
And I think that's the issue that I'm having, Penn, because I feel like he's the straw. I mean, he's the guy. Joel Embiid is the guy who absolutely is holding up this tent. So as good as Paul George can be as a complimentary player, sure, as Maxey being the young guy, because I think that to be honest with you, Mars, and this may be controversial also, I think they signed Maxey as insurance because I think that you got Joel Embiid at this level. To be honest with you, I think you got Joel Embiid at this level for 2-3 more years tops. That's as far as I'm going with Joel Embiid. I don't think he's going to hold up that much longer. And I think that they signed Maxey, not just for insurance, but for him to be the guy moving forward. Because once Joel Embiid becomes a shell of what he used to be, they're going to have to move off of him. I mean, I don't see Joel Embiid, to be honest with you, playing at this level in 3 years. I don't think he's going to hold up physically.
But,
I just don't think he's going to hold up.
I think we're saying the same thing to some extent, but I mean, championship windows are valuable, right? Like a real window where you can count yourself, and even if you're lying to yourself and say you're one of the 2-3 best teams in a conference, that's all you can really ask for. Now, ideally, you build that window to be 5 years, or you build that window to be 8 years, like what the OKC Thunder are doing right now. Right. But sometimes beggars can't be choosers. The James Harden situation didn't work out too well. The Ben Simmons situation didn't work out too well. Joel Embiid hasn't been healthy. You've had a lot of, really the saving grace here is Tyrese Maxey. They almost didn't get him. They almost lost that pick. It was a random shot. Mike Muscala hitting a random shot, bumps that pick out of protection. They picked Tyrese Maxey. And plus, you needed so much luck for the first place. Like, he's a Kentucky guard. I mean, we should know by now their track record. He shouldn't have fallen to 21 to begin with. But my point is, you cashed in on this beautiful player. He is a really good player. He's like a culture builder, and he's a downhill attack guard. He shoots like lights out. He's evolving as a playmaker. He's not nearly as bad as people think he is defensively. Well, he's not great. But what you say about Paul George, I mean, honestly, if Paul George is second best player, you still have a chance in a playoff series. You don't have a chance against Boston, but you have a chance against Orlando. Tyrese Maxey and Paul George with role players can get you through Orlando, maybe.
But Penn, we've seen Paul George in the playoffs in the past. Like you said, you have a chance. I mean, what chance is he giving us when, you know, we've got pandemic P or we've got Paul George when
the pandemic ended. The pandemic ended. No, I get what you're saying. Look, this is me.
Now,
but personally speaking, again, all my personal biases aside, if I'm picking, I'm not picking the Sixers to win a championship because I don't trust Joel Embiid and I don't trust Paul George. That's me speaking like barbershop wisdom, right?
Sure.
That's the reason you picked Dallas to win the chip over Boston.
Exactly. Exactly. But on paper, they should work really well. And Nick Nurse, the championship coach, another guy I don't like, Nick Nurse. But again, you know, you have the ingredients.
What's your issue with Nick Nurse? What's your problem with him?
I don't like how he exited Toronto.
Okay. So that's different. I thought
I'm a Toronto fan. I'm not even mad at that.
Okay.
I mean, I'm happy I'm happy we lost him, but I'm just like I don't like how he ran things the last year. But nevertheless, like I'm just saying, I think this is a good move for Philadelphia. You had to do this. You cleared up a max space to do this. You pushed off the extension with Maxey to do this, and it was either going to be him or it was going to be OG. Those are the two guys who were going to fit into one of those spots. And if you're going to tell me OG is better because he's younger, I get what you're saying, but also I don't get what you're saying. You know what I mean?
That doesn't necessarily mean he's available all the time, neither.
Exactly. So you're taking a risk.
I don't think anybody thinks OG is better than Paul George, though.
I don't think so.
I don't think. There's no way. There's no way anyone thinks. There's no way anyone thinks OG is better than Paul George. There's no way.
You can make the argument.
You can make the argument only on one guy's 26 and the other guy's 34. That's the only argument.
Can you make the argument that OG is better than Paul George? Even at this advanced age, can you make the argument that OG is better than him?
You're reaching.
I'm just a host today, so
okay. You're the one who brought this up. I'm asking you, Mars.
I just said you can make the argument.
Okay, so can you make the argument? Is my question to you.
If I wasn't a host, I think I could. But
so this is what I want you to do, just for a minute, Mars. I want you to take your host hat off, and I want you to make the argument for OG being a better player at this stage than Paul George. What does he do to make him better than Paul George?
This is a grieving Knicks fan trying to get hype about OG making $45 million.
No, I mean, the argument, I guess, would be, it would come to like who provides more value on the court, right? So like PG, I think everyone would agree is the more skilled player. So that you're not going to win the who's more skilled argument, OG or Paul George. Okay. I think it would be somewhere in like the realm of the way people think Draymond Green was a top 10 player in the league, but he wasn't a top 10 most skilled player in the league because of the impact he brought to the game. So if you were one to say the value OG Anunoby brings, particularly defensively, as someone who could easily guard 1 through 4, 1 through 5 on occasion, depending on the matchups and the bigs, and his ability to be a point of attack stopper, but he can switch. And then he can space the floor offensively. He can run out in transition. He's not a high usage player. You don't really have to run things for him, even though he probably wants you to run things for him. But as a prototype, you don't have to run things for him. So he's not going to take usage away from the players who are actually better than him offensively. So he fits better with certain stars because of that. He doesn't need to dribble the ball for 11 seconds to get into his offense. He doesn't. So if his attack fizzles out, you still got other options to go to on a possession. I think teams could possibly value what OG brings to their table more than what Paul George brings to the table, especially if they already have offensive pieces in place. You have Paul George, you kind of have to find ways to fit him in offensively, whereas with OG, he fits wherever you want to put him. So is Paul George worth the hassle of trying to fit him in at this stage of his career versus OG, who you can fit in seamlessly anywhere? That's where I guess you can make the argument that OG,
I think I've seen Paul George fit in just about in every situation.
And
he
not
is
only that,
so portable.
I'm not saying OG's better than Paul George.
He's
right. Trying to make the argument.
I'm just making the argument. Yeah,
sure, you are. And fit does not mean better player. And sure, OG Anunoby can fit in multiple places because he's the consummate utility guy. He does a lot of things that a lot of guys don't do, especially at that size. Paul George used to do a lot of those things that OG Anunoby does. He doesn't do them at that level anymore. So maybe he's more of a specialist in certain things than OG Anunoby used to be, like a scorer, right? Like a primary ball handler, things like that. But the idea of him being better as a player at this stage, no.
I think with Paul George, I just think the one thing that's really held him back the last couple of years is just the injuries at the wrong time. He's just gotten injured at the wrong time, along with Kawhi, and I think that's just kind of warped the perspective of who he is as a player. Paul George, to me, on Philadelphia, is the clear number 2. I don't even think it's close. I think he's significantly better than Maxey, significantly more valuable than Maxey. He's the clear number 2. He's the clear number 2 in Philadelphia. People don't understand. I just think people have this warped conception of how good Paul George really is because the injuries at the wrong time. Paul George, again, I guess the caveat is too, just with Joel Embiid, when healthy, is way significant. No one is going to say Maxey is better than Paul George. That's not the conversation.
Wait, let's ask. Let's fact check that. Let's fact check that. Swiper, who's better, Maxey or Paul George?
Tyrese Maxey was absolutely
okay. So one person said it.
That is true. That's wild.
2 people have said it. Chill.
This is ridiculous. This is crazy. In no universe.
Maxey, that's 3. So Jalen, you said no one.
How long does a player have to be good for you to say he's better? Is just because it's 1 year that it?
I mean, no, I don't even think Maxey was better than Paul George.
He's like 22.
He was a good bit better than Paul George last year.
This kind of logic from Jalen is the reason why I say when you hear guys' names where they have these guys as opposed to who they are today. This is exactly what I'm talking about.
And then Maxey was unequivocally better in the playoffs.
How was the same wisdom that had the Knicks signing Tracy McGrady and Steve Francis at the end of their careers? It's the same wisdom because
hold on. You think Paul George is Tracy McGrady?
No. Don't build arguments that we didn't make. I'm saying that I agree with Chilltown.
Cook him.
That Paul George is a very good player. I still think he's one of the top 40 players in the NBA. He might even be one of the top 35 players in the NBA.
That's hilarious.
You don't think he's one of the top?
No, I just think just where Paul George is gone. He's top 40. I just thought that was funny.
Well, because me saying
Paul George has a legitimate case to be top 20.
Me saying he's top 40 doesn't mean he's 22.
He's in conversation.
You know what I mean? Top 40 doesn't mean he's 38. I'm saying he's in the top 40. He's in that conversation, just like Trae Young's in that conversation, no matter how much people hate him. Just like Victor Wembanyama's in that conversation, even though he's a rookie. Like, you don't think Victor Wembanyama is one of the top 40
No,
players?
you're saying. I'm saying I agree with you. I'm saying I agree with you. Okay. Somebody saying that Victor Wembanyama is not in the.
No,
top 25. I'm probably asking.
But what I'm saying is you not telling me that Tyrese Maxey is not in the top 40.
Mm-hmm.
So now we got to start cutting off the watermarks. So do both of them make the top 30 mark? I mean, honestly, it just comes down to this: Paul George 4 years ago versus Tyrese Maxey today. Paul George better player. I'll give you that. That was year 30. He was 30 years old. That's still prime. Paul George fallen off quite a bit 4 years ago. 5 years ago, I think he was OKC. That was the last year OKC. That Paul George was definitively better than Tyrese Maxey. That's not who he is right now.
Jalen, who was better?
About to ask.
Who was better in the playoffs this last year for you?
This last year, Maxey was better in the playoffs without a doubt.
Because I'm thinking about.
You would say go ahead.
This is what I'm asking, Swiper. This is what I'm asking. Because I know how you are. You're very much in the now. Who would I rather have today? I'd rather have Maxey than over Paul George. What did Maxey do over the last couple of years? And when did he pass Paul George? Is my question.
Well, I think Paul George has dipped. And I think that if you ask Clippers fans, he would tell you he's wildly inconsistent. Mm-hmm. He doesn't get to an easy shot as often as he should. He doesn't get to the rim as often as he should. He'll settle for bad shots more often than not. He's not aggressive. He is a floater. He is not locked in on defense as consistently as he could be. Again, if you ask Clippers fans, that's what they'll tell you. They also will go off on the fact that Paul George has basically said that the reason why I wasn't as good as I want to be is because I had to do too much. And then when they lost the role players, they were like, well, this is why we're losing. This is why we're struggling, instead of just saying Paul George wasn't good enough. So again, if you ask Clippers fans their opinion, they wanted Paul George back, but they also realized that Paul George was a part of the problem. Paul George is better. Sure. They might win in the first round, despite Kawhi not being there. The fact that Kawhi wasn't there, and then you go into the playoff, Mr. Paul George, who I also like as a player. But Paul George, 19 points per game, 41% from the field. That's not good enough.
Can't we say this? Can't we use that same logic? I believe it was in 21. I think when Leonard goes down, he basically throws the unit on his back and takes them to the Western Conference Finals, even though the series was just about over.
They won 2 games.
Right. They were already halfway through. They were already halfway through the series. But with that being said, they also they also got into a damn good series with Phoenix, and he played really well in that series. He ends up
in 2021.
He ends up, yes, and then he ends up breaking down. I think it was either 22 or 20. It was last year. I'm sorry. He broke down and he hyperextended his knee, which, because of injuries, that's now slowing him down. Maxey has been on an upward trajectory because, one, he stayed healthy. Two, ridiculous athlete who can get to the rim whenever he wants. One of the better finishing guards in the game. But I'm thinking about Paul George still being that elite player. But I would rather have Maxey today. One, I think because he's younger. Two, on his trajectory is going this way. Paul George, I feel like I've already seen the best of him. And three, I think Philly's in a better position with him with the ball.
To answer the question of when one passed the other, I think it happened last year, to be honest. And, to people saying, hey, you're not really talking about what Tyrese Maxey's doing. You're just talking about Paul George's regression. When you're comparing two people, that regression is part of the equation of how one person got better than the other person, right? If I break my leg, someone's better than me by default, right? So that's kind of like how I see it. Tyrese Maxey has shown a work ethic, a consistent, he's a gym rat. He's going to come in. I don't think you've even seen him scratch the surface of his potential. It could be all NBA next year. Paul George's all NBA days are probably over. Unless, of course, half the league gets injured, misses the 65 game mark, and then he makes it by default. So I'm not saying Paul George is trash. Obviously, I still think he's worth the contract that he signed right now. He won't be worth it in 3 years. So I think the Sixers think exactly what you think, Cho. I think they got a 2-year window with Joel Embiid. They think they got the best player in the league. They think they have the best player in the league. I think a lot of people would agree with that. A healthy Joel Embiid on paper is probably one of the top 2-3 players in the league. Splitting hairs. So you give them a window because these players do not come around every single year. They don't come around every 5 years, frankly. So, you're at a point right now. And then, you eat the end of that contract, and then he's a $58 million expiring in 2029, which doesn't even feel like a real year right now. So
sure, you got to
maximize. When it comes to this, we got to go back to the Maxey Paul George thing too. Because hold on, when it comes to the playoffs, a 6-game sample size, 5-game sample sizes, that's not making someone a better player. So this idea that someone having a better playoff series without taking the context of one was facing the Dallas Mavericks, whose defense was phenomenal, versus the Knicks, that Knicks Philly team, that Knicks Philly series.
Yeah,
the Knicks defense was not at the level of Dallas defense.
What?
Are we saying that?
No, what?
No.
That's an interesting way to present the argument.
It's different situations. Hold on, I'm just saying it's different situations. So a 6-game sample size in the playoffs is not going to say someone's better. Now throughout,
who's better in the regular season?
No, hold on. The regular one. You brought up defense. How Paul George isn't locked in. It wasn't as consistently locked in. Maxey never plays defense at level of Paul George. In no point.
Yeah, but he's also a much better playmaker, much better in transition, overall better shooter, better scorer.
Hold on. The defense argument is out the window. That's Paul George by a good amount. Now it's going.
Even today, Jalen. Even today,
I'm checking the date here. Is it 2020? Nope. Is it 2021? Nope. Is it 2022? Nope. Is it 2023? Nope. Bro, when 2024? You don't think that Tyrese Maxey been in the gym for the last 2 years? I mean, the last 2 months? He's been there. He's good. But we're talking today. Season starts in October, bro. October 1st. Who's a better player?
We can't say Maxey's better today because he's going to be better in 4 months. That's
projecting. We don't want to do that
because we can say who's better today. Based on what we've seen.
The argument was who would you rather have, and who would you rather have is only relevant for NBA games. NBA games are not starting again until October. So
the argument, but Jalen
next 4 months matter.
Jalen said Paul George was better. Jalen started the argument. So if we moved the goalpost to who we'd rather have, that's not on Jalen.
Can we just take a vote on this?
We did. Everyone picked Maxey, but Jalen verbatim said Paul George is better than Maxey. That's what he said. Right. So if we've made the argument and you guys have turned it into who you'd rather have going forward, that's not what Jalen said.
Right.
So I just want to clarify. Jalen said Paul George is better player.
So
that's what he said. So wait a minute.
Today, who would I rather have?
So let's stop. Let's stop.
Who's the better player? That's what he
Paul
said.
Paul George is a better player than Maxey. I would rather have Maxey today than Paul George.
Okay, there you go. So choose on Jalen's side.
So that's based on
age. Paul George is a better player.
Okay, so Paul George is a better player. Yeah,
I would rather have Maxey.
But doesn't it matter that Paul George, like objectively, Jalen will drift like throughout a game and like will disengage throughout a game like rather consistently, and again, even especially in the playoffs, if he would have been better in that first round, and whatever about this defense, if he would have played better in the first round, then they would have won that series, Jalen.
Sure,
I mean, to me, that's not even a conversation. Harden was very good for a large majority of that series, and
it would have put him in a better spot to win. Sure, he could have played better, but again, it's just one playoff series.
How much better are you asking Paul George to play? Because if Paul George wasn't terrible in that series against Dallas, he wasn't awful.
For a second option on a max contract that you needed to absolutely play well because Kawhi Leonard was out, that's not nothing to do with it. You ain't that old. You're 33. Sure, when you were 33.
But
that's a long time ago. Let's slow down.
Well, not only that, but we're also talking about his 33 is different than other 33s. He's not aging well. I mean, we're talking about a broken leg. We're talking about
so then we're adding the fact that he's been injured and age and then comparing him to
the injury thing is what it is.
Sure, you can do that if you want. You can do that if you want.
It sounds like you guys are just saying Paul George is worse than he used to be, but that doesn't mean he's now worse than Maxey is.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the same argument people use. It's like the same argument people use for LeBron. It's like, well, LeBron isn't what he was in 2018.
That doesn't mean
he's still not better than Tyrese Maxey. Like, just because you've regressed from how high you used to be doesn't mean you've now fell below someone else who was below.
And the scoring discrepancy between those guys is not massive. Right. What, Maxey took 5 more shots a game during the regular season,
or just in the regular season?
Hold on. In regular season, season is the bigger sample size, right? So he took 5 more shots in regular season and playing next to Joel Embiid. You put Paul George in that environment, it's right there. Right there.
What's the difference?
I think Paul George probably might be a more skilled scorer. I'm gonna say Paul George is the more skilled scorer.
Kyrie's one of the most skilled scorers in the league.
Yeah.
Is he a top 4? Is he a top 3 scorer in the league?
No.
Well, then I mean, skill is important, but like it's your also utilization of said skill. Paul George. I think it's going to be perfectly fine. Paul George, but even by his own admission, doesn't want to do everything all the time. He said this on his own podcast.
Well, he told us that he's not a number one. He told us that.
So if he's going to go to this situation, and Jalen, I think what's going to happen, he's going to be a really solid 2B. I think Maxey will be the 2A, whatever else it is. I think that he's going to become a very good off-ball player like he already is. He's going to accentuate that with Embiid and Maxey. He's going to be a great secondary ball handler within that lineup. He'll be a really good wing defender. Those lineups, y'all, when they're going to have Paul George and Kelly Oubre and Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid and whoever they want to put in the game. And again, especially versus like the Knicks or versus the Celtics, and they want to put Embiid at the 5, put PG at the 4, and then put, whatever at the 3, like, I don't know, if they want to put Eric Gordon, depending on how they finish out their signings, they're going to be a really legit team. And I think Paul George being able to be a third option, be a tertiary player, and also be a primary scorer at different points in time, it's just going to add to their versatility, like all the way around. So I think they're going to be a really good team. They're going to be a really good team.
By the way, I'm going to add that.
They'll be the second best in the league.
I like tertiary. Can I get a synonym for tertiary? I like
tertiary.
Third.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like your like.
It's tertiary.
Tertiary. I like that one. I'm going to add that word to my vocabulary. I like that. Okay.
You got to say tertiary. You got to say hypothetically. You got to add all these 5 synonym words to sound real smart.
Yeah, you say some long words, you'll sound like you know what you're talking about, even if you're making no sense.
If you're making no sense, I don't want to do that.
It's a good
It'd be better to make sense. Look, I mean, honestly, the argument is simple. Paul George, you got experience. That's in his advantage. You got size, positional versatility, defense, all those things in his size.
Scoring, passing, he's everything.
I think you very, very much are underrating Tyrese Maxey. On Maxey's side, you got advantage generation and intangibles, big game presence. I think those things matter. And you got upside.
What intangibles would he have?
Leadership, man. Leadership. Tyrese Maxey is a freaking incredible leader.
Why is he a better leader than Paul George? What is Maxwell in the leadership thing? We're not in the locker room. Like, I mean, that leadership argument.
Well, Penn might have reasons.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Yo, we got some Hail Marys. We need prayer. We need to start a prayer group right now. He's not a better leader. He's 22 years old. He's 22, 23 years old. Someone correct me on that.
23.
Bro, if you listen to anyone outside the Philadelphia organization, and Swiper, you could probably back me up on this one if you've heard similar stuff. Like, they rave about this guy's culture setting abilities. His ability to lead, his ability to, keep the locker room together. These are things that are not common for guys under 25. I think that
he's
this
I've
is a
never
very
heard these things about
underrated part.
Maxey. I don't know where we're hearing these things about Maxey.
Because you're not in the know, Jalen.
I guess not. I'm not in the
You're not in
locker
the
room.
know.
I'm
You're
not
not
I
in the
think
locker
we're
room. This is
we're
crazy.
swiping.
I think he's
and
more so not a distraction. I would say that he's not a
Sure.
distraction. That's a welcome thing in Philly.
I think where the divide with Swiper and I comes in is like Swiper is very much wrapped up in right now. And I think that when you get wrapped up in right now, that could trick people off the strength that right now in a year could look totally different, way different. And that's where it gets tricky for me.
So Maxey's younger and ascending, and
Going
Paul
that
George,
way,
even
sure.
if he's staying at this level. So if Paul George stays what he did last year, you know,
I mean, you
That's
can't
decent.
always assume that a guy at this stage in his career after getting paid is going to get better. But I think the track record, the best evidence, for future behavior is past behavior. Tyrese Maxey has shown me year after year after year that he gets way better and he stays relatively healthy. And he is a infusively positive presence in the locker room. Bro, you got to see this guy. Yo, like any coach will tell you, when you're scouting youth level, when you're scouting AAU, you check body language. You check how teammates are interacting with the guy. When the guy falls, how many people go to pick him up? How quickly do they go to pick him up? When you're down 15, is he the one yelling at dudes on the bench, or is he inspiring, getting guys riled up? I think these are intangibles. Ultimately, if you want to win a championship, intangibles matter. I think the Milwaukee Bucks found that out with Drew Holiday. I think Drew Holiday is the definition of intangibles. I'm not saying that Tyrese Maxey is a great defender. He's not really a good defender at all. He might be one of the worst starting point guard defenders in the league. That's the only thing that you could say, oh, he doesn't have that. And he's
I hate that, man. The reason why I hate that is because I'm thinking about guys like Russell Westbrook and the athlete that he is, and as smart as Tyrese Maxey is. There's no reason why you shouldn't, at minimum, be a solid defender.
he's
There's
not the
no
athlete that
reason.
Russ is, though.
One more
He's
time.
just fast. He's just fast.
It's,
He's not
it's different athleticism.
Yeah, he's not the athlete that Russ
lateral
is.
quickness.
But he-
Okay, so
He doesn't not try. He just is very small.
at
Yeah, he is a
6'2",
mismatch. He is a mismatch. The league's changed, sure.
He's 6'1". He's got a massive wingspan. I understand in theory he should be able to defend,
tall is
but
he?
this is the NBA where the
think I'm
average
listening to
player is about
6'3",
6'7", right?
right?
The 6'7", and they're
I mean,
big.
it's about 6'3",
right?
6'2".
Tyrese 6'2".
Yeah, I mean, he's
I'd
6'1".
say
Yeah,
6'2" before I say
splitting hairs. I
6'3".
mean, he's
Yeah,
got
he's probably
6'9",
6'2".
6'10" wingspan. He's got the really long wingspan. Yeah, in theory, he should be able to. And I feel like, again, the thing with defense, it's not one way, right? People look at Off Night, Davion Mitchell, new Raptor. They see him, they're like, that's a great defender. But they may see like a less flashy, less point of attack focus, less 94-foot type defender, less, like the guy who gets the big stop, the big steal. And they may not see them as a great defender, but they're always in position. They're a great team defender. They're always, hitting rotations, closing the gap.
Yeah,
correctly.
that's not Tyrese Maxey, but
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, Tyrese Maxey gets lost off the
6'6"
ball. His
wingspan.
focus 6'6".
Yeah, it's not bad.
He's
It's not bad. It's
small.
not long.
He looks longer. But I mean, okay, so I'm just saying, like, there's a
Focus
lot to work
small.
on
He
defensively.
has Embiid on his team, to be fair. So that's
Exactly. That's the point. And honestly, Joel Embiid, for all the shit I've talked about him, he might be the best defender in the NBA.
Okay, now we're going too far.
Top 5.
Oh, you talking about Joel Embiid?
Yeah, best defenders.
He is-
No,
he
he
is top 5.
Rudy
in-
Gobert,
Top five,
Victor
give it to you.
Wembanyama,
You think
Bam,
Rudy Gobert is
Anthony
a better
Davis.
defender?
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah, 1,000%.
Anthony Davis.
Yes,
Yes.
and that
Rudy
Anthony Davis
Gobert
is
is also
better.
better.
AD's not the hill I think you should.
Joel Embiid is a very good defender, man.
He is. So
I
he's top
agree,
10.
I agree.
He's
Not
top
better than
10.
AD.
He's
Not
top
better
10.
than AD. He's not better than Giannis. Yeah,
He
okay.
defends almost as good as Chill defends zero. He's
Okay,
a really good defender.
let's put it this way. When
I didn't bring him. I just brought up Chill.
You wonder why you get called
I
a
just brought up
hater.
Chill. I just brought up Chill.
when I say he's the best defender in the NBA, I should say top 3 defender because Victor Wembanyama is there, and there are some incredible guard defenders as well. I say he's the top 3 defender. I mean, when he wants to be, when he needs to be. Obviously, offensive load is going to take away from your defense. Kawhi hasn't been like a super serious, crazy, great defender in a while because his offensive load is so high. There's always going to be that trade-off. Joel Embiid last year under Nick Nurse, what was his usage rate? Like,
Wait a minute, Penn. Hold on. Let's
One of the
rewind.
highest in the league.
Because Leonard hasn't been the defender because his offensive load is so high. He was the defensive player of the year, and he was the best offensive player on that San Antonio Spurs team when he was on that crew. So the fact that
he was like
has
25, bro.
Even that's not the point. The point is that he still had a heavy offensive load that he had to carry, and he still was an elite defender. The fact that he's been broken down, that's the reason why he's not the defender that he used to be.
I feel like a lot of people, like, they compare it to that era, you know, like when the NBA was a lot slower.
Right.
You got to talk about a guy in Joel Embiid's body, right? With all the injuries and whatever. He's 7'1". The way he plays, dribble, ISO shit, like, he's a 7'1" human being playing in one of the fastest eras in NBA history. And, you know, I'm just saying, like, that's a major load that you weren't carrying if you're playing in a slower era in the early 2000s. Pace has to matter. Possessions have to matter. Like, if you're playing like 100 possessions in 48 minutes, that's different than playing, I don't know, the slowest pace of basketball, 70 possessions.
But
you got
Ben,
more
that's
time
a
to
double-edged. Sure.
And I mean, also, you got to consider where the NBA offense has gone in terms of what we're asking bigs to do.
Right.
This is not Joel Embiid go down in the paint and bang for, you know,
that's
20
where
seconds.
I was going, because I mean,
you got to rotate now.
We're talking about playing in a faster era. That's a double-edged sword, because now you're playing in the 2000s with more bigs. The game's more physical, which means you got to play more defense as a big. You have to be more physical. And he's shown us when he first showed up in the league, he was broken. And now moving forward, playing against Shaq, playing against Tim Duncan, playing against Ben Wallace, playing against Kevin Garnett, playing against Chris Webber, guys like that, where these guys are physical, and now he's got to do that even more than he did in this era. The difference, I feel like we can supplement the rotating because we can play more zone. I feel like we can supplement the rotating with guys like Joel Embiid off the strength that our defense, we got more guys who can protect him, as opposed to back then. Again, I'm on record saying the guy that's playing on the block, I think he's got a tougher assignment than the guy on the wing, because there's nobody to help me, and there's nobody standing between me and him. There's nobody standing between him and the rim except me. So if I screw up, I'm on the hook. If you screw up, I'm here to help you because I'm at the rim. So I think it's a double-edged sword when we're talking about Joel Embiid like that.
I mean, I think I need to ask you a question. You mentioned Ben Wallace, right?
Yep.
As a guy. Who's harder to guard, Ben Wallace or Lauri Markkanen?
Who's harder to guard?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's a question.
I mean, you know, we're talking about an era where Greg Ostertag and Olden Polynice were starting centers. I'm not just pointing out to the big ones.
Right.
There was a lot of guys. I mean, they're dumping it into them, and they might get a layup every now and again, but they're not running the offense through it. Like,
right.
I mean, I'm just saying, with all the motion that the Warriors have brought into basketball, and the Warriors are not the only ones. 7 seconds or less. Suns, the Sacramento Kings. It's just really hard to guard in the NBA. I was flabbergasted. There's another $1,000 word for Andre Iguodala, saying that guys were really more skilled and more better put together in his era, when he was talking about, like, oh, guys today, they're getting exposed. Back in my era, you had to be a complete player. I was like, complete what? No, the game is evolved in a way where, you know, you got guys who probably be top 10 picks that are going undrafted now for a reason, because you have to be so good to be a guard today, and you have to be so skilled and so complete to be a big. You have to be versatile. You have to be flexible. You have to be able to guard like 3-4 different types of bigs. Like, we're in an era where there's like 35 different types of players, and we're talking about an era where there were like 7. The exponential growth on the type of bigs you're guarding. I mean, I remember it being revolutionary when Sam Perkins was dropping threes. That guy would be like basically a non-shooter in today's NBA because of the number of ways he can get his three. Now you got bigs coming off picks to get threes, movement threes.
Sure. I mean,
that's tough to guard for a 7-footer.
Right. And I mean, that was going on in years past. I mean, we kind of scoffed at it when Minnesota was running action for Kevin Love to get at the long ball line. We scoffed at that when that was going on 10, 15 years ago. That was happening. And like now that's a regular occurrence. Sure, I get that. But I mean, again, the game evolves. And with the game evolving, I mean, a guy like Joel Embiid, who I do think he's one of the better players in the game. I'll never argue that he's one of the better players in the game. I just think that in this era of basketball, I feel like bigs in particular, they are more the word I'm looking for is they've evolved. They still do big man stuff, but they've evolved. They've become, with the exception of Joel Embiid, they become slimmer. They become more athletic. So they're able to guard on the perimeter more because that's what the game has turned into. And those who aren't, you have guys that are able to protect them more than you would in the past. Because, I mean, who can we really protect? We can't protect Alonzo Mourning from Shaq. We can't do that. No, we can't protect Dirk Nowitzki from Chris Webber. We can't. We couldn't do that. It was just him against Chris Webber. We can do that today because one, guys are bigger, guys are more athletic. The defense is actually advanced. So
I just think today, I mean, to what Penn was saying, players just need to be more well-rounded. While in the 2000s, you just had more specialists, guys who were just great defenders, couldn't shoot, guys who were just shooters, couldn't do much else. While now you need to have more than kind of that one skill set, or you're getting run off the floor in most cases.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a differentiation between 3-point shooters. So it's not enough to be a standstill 3-point shooter in the corner anymore. So the Bruce Brown, PJ Tucker role, that's being cut out for guys who can get their threes in like 4 or 5 different ways. You got to be able to get it off the catch, but you also need to be able to come off screens. You need to be able to come off of dribble handoffs. You need to be able to pop up in transition. You need to be able to do it off of the dribble. Like where we're at with the game is just, it's an arms race, man. It's an arms race. One team figures it out. Right now, we got the Boston Celtics on the cutting edge of basketball evolution right now, putting 5 of these guys together. Denver Nuggets last year, they're doing stuff. And now everyone's trying to take the notes and implement it and try to make it better. I think what the Sixers are doing here is a little old school, you know, the big three, that whole thing, but it could work. It could work. It's the best big three in basketball.
Having 3 max contracts with this apron thing about to hit is
yeah, I feel like, I don't know if you guys ever went into the apron or stuff, but it's like it's confusing. It's confusing people who are in the league to figure out like what is going on with this apron thing. What does it mean to be hard tap and stuff?
After and Swiper explained this a little bit yesterday, and I'm still not clear on it. After the MLE, if I'm in the second apron, is it the second or the first apron where I'm only able to sign my free agents. I'm not able to sign any MLEs. I'm in a hard second. This in the second. I'm in a hard cap. After that, it gets foggy for me. I'm still trying to understand the rest of it. From what
I understand, hopefully we can piece it together collectively. If you stay in the second apron, if you're a second apron team for 3 out of 5 years, your picks start to get frozen. It gets moved to the end of the first round. So even if you fifth pick, you get the 30th pick, which is why the Clippers were so hesitant to lock into 4 years of Paul George instead of 3 years of Paul George. There's restrictions in terms of aggregating contracts. You can't send out a $31 million contract for a $30 million contract, so you can't take back more in a trade. You don't have the ability to sign players in the buyout market that had a contract over $12.5 million in the buyout. So let's just say right now, Klay doesn't work out in Dallas, which I'm sure we're going to talk about at some point. He gets bought out. He can't go to a second apron team because his contract was too high. So there's all these restrictions and impositions put on teams. And basically the sum short of it, to anyone who wants to go read it, right. Bobby Marks and those guys, they have like great explainers on this. I think the sum short of this is if like the league's been trying forever to create parity and to create an incentive strong enough to stop teams from spending into the cap. Like the Warriors, Joe Lacob on record saying, we don't care what the rules are. We're going to go pay $100 million for Jordan Poole. We're going to go pay Kelly Oubre crazy money. We're going to pay D'Angelo Russell. We don't care. Money is not an object. And for a team like, a small market team like OKC, they're like, how are we supposed to compete when these guys are willing to spend $1 billion over 5-6 years of luxury tax payments?
In the draft. That's how you do it. So
now they're not just hitting their pocketbooks. You're still getting hit in the pocketbooks. The luxury tax is still a real thing. Right. You're not just getting hit in the pocketbooks. You're also getting hit on your roster, your inability to basically build your roster. So at this point, teams like the Phoenix Suns are really screwed. And teams like, I guarantee you in the old CBA, Zach LaVine would have been moved by now. Guaranteed Zach LaVine would have been moved right now. And I think that, in the modern CBA, teams are looking at a guy like Zach LaVine, and they're like, you are going to be the reason we are not going to be able to do.
This is the first time. This is the first time that I can remember. Maybe you guys can remember. This is the first time that I've seen a team being able to pay everybody. I don't ever remember seeing a team like the Boston Celtics. They paid everybody.
They can't.
Well, they just did.
Well, hold on, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. They paid
they-
everybody.
They have two.
remember saying that.
Could they have two max guys, and everyone else is getting played?
And they own their
They-
bird rights.
They did. They did pay everyone.
Okay.
The other side of that coin is they literally. This is this is the biggest news of the NBA the whole last year. The Boston Celtics are the preeminent franchise, them and the Lakers in NBA history. Their ownership group has bought them in 2002. They put them up for sale. They're going public for sale as of yesterday. That team is going to be worth around $4 to $7 billion next year, depending on how everything aggregates.
Probably
The
close.
problem with what's happening is they're paying everyone now, which they can technically now. They have 4 $30 million contracts in the KP contract. The problem is a couple of years from now, because of the second apron rules that exist now that will carry over to that point, the ownership group, on top of paying the salaries, the standard stadium, staff, employee, all that stuff, there's an additional $400 million they're going to have to pay because they're over the second apron. So the word that I got is that this is going to, teams are either going to do two things. They're going to do what the Nuggets are doing, which is try to skate it and not get there and then shed higher contracts, or just say no to them and then build around.
Later
or
on.
now, this is what they do with KCP. Like, and to basically say, like, we want to have him fifth starter back, but we just can't go to the second apron. We're just not willing. And then we have no flexibility, as he talked about earlier.
Right.
The other side of this is the Boston Celtics ownership group basically said, cool, we'll pay everybody, but we are never going to see that bill. Because we're not going to be liable.
Of course.
For $400
That's
million.
what I was thinking. That's exactly
We're
what
not
I was
going to be
thinking.
liable for $400 million. They're going to cash out. They're going to make their billions, but then they're
going to sell them.
They're skating.
We're selling now while it's high, and we're going to pay everybody right now, and then you're going to be the one that's on the hook for this. In
$400 million.
Years. I'm going to be
additional
gone.
dollars. This is not within budget. This is additional money because of the CBA charge. It's insanity. But again, this is not for, and I also again had some conversation. My takeaway from everything I've learned so far, this is not about parity. This is about the ownership wanting a higher portion of the income of the NBA. And then the other end of this, owners like the owners with the Celtics, owners like some of these other teams, they just don't want to pay that. They want a hard cap so they can compete. But if they do get a roster that is like one of these Thunder rosters later on, or the Nuggets or the Celtics or the Lakers or the Clippers, they're just saying, we're not Steve Ballmer. We do not want to pay that. So therefore, we're going to put a hard cap in place that's going to limit roster construction for a really good team. Now, KCP can't stay in Denver. He has to go to Orlando. Bruce Brown can't stay in Denver. He has to go to Indiana. And so then teams like the Celtics are like, okay, cool, we'll pay everybody. We're going to win a championship this last year, maybe next year. But then literally 3 years from now, we're not going to be seen anymore because we're not paying $400 million for this. That's where we are right now. So now it's about, are teams going to willingly put themselves in the second apron, or to everybody else's point up here, are we going to just have two max contracts, $55, $60 million a year, and then we're just going to fill out the rest of the roster and just never get there?
Here's the difference with that, Swipe, because a lot of the stuff that you just brought up, I did not know. But with that being said, I mean, the Warriors did the same thing. I mean, even though they got their guys early, they got Steph on the cheap early. They got Klay on the cheap early. They got Draymond on the cheap early. And then ultimately they had to pay them. But with that being said, this is the NBA. This isn't pro baseball. This isn't pro football. You're not winning on the cheap. So you're going to have to pay in order to win in the NBA. So in the next 2 years, and and all of you guys up here know this is a copycat league. So we know that if the Boston Celtics, who've already paid everybody, let's say for the sake of argument, they end up winning it again over the next year or two. They end up winning it again. People are going to see this model, and they're going to go, yo, we need to compete with that. And the way to compete with that, more times than not is to drag.
How many owners actually want to win that championship for that cost, though?
Here's the difference. I'll tell you, it's plenty of them. Why? Because I saw the Oklahoma City Thunder do it in 2018, 2019, where they had the highest payroll in NBA history, and there was no way.
You think these teams stay bad for decades because they're incompetent, or because they don't want to?
No, it's definitely because they're incompetent. But again, Swiper, remember what we're doing. We're living in the moment at the time. It's not just because we're incompetent. We find out we're incompetent later. It sounds like a good idea at the time. So it sounds like a great idea to trade for Paul George. It sounds like a great idea to trade for Carmelo Anthony and pay these guys with Russell Westbrook, because this thing is going to work. And when it becomes a disaster and you ultimately get that bill and you're like, damn, I didn't think about this. All I was thinking about was winning. And then when that doesn't happen, now you on the hook for that. Well, the Boston Celtics, who already had the model where they got Jason Tatum in the draft, they got Jalen Brown in the draft. They ended up moving off of both Marcus Smart and who am I thinking about? Both Grant Williams. They moved off of those guys and upgraded those positions. Now, this ultimately ended up with a parade in Boston, which is what all of these owners want. So what they're not going to do, they're not going to see that model.
Chill. That's the thing. I'm being dead honest with you. I don't actually think that's what most owners. I'm being real honest. I don't know the percentage of owners that actually their end goal is championship. Their end goal is money, because the thing is, championships cost you so much money on the other end. Because again, if you're paying 100, 150, 200 million on the luxury tax, you're cutting into your own dividends on your own. So instead of making 300 million off this season, now you're making 150. For a lot of people, you got to remember, they're building in cost for their other enterprises based on how much they're earning through their NBA teams. So
I don't know if that's necessarily true though, son, because I hear what you're saying, but I think a lot of these owners have businesses outside of their NBA team. They're generating most of their income outside of their NBA, owning this NBA team. A lot of the times, like owning this NBA team, to what buying a Ferrari is for a regular guy, a toy, a millionaire buying a Ferrari, a billionaire buys a sports team as a flex, and I think to chase championships and to win. I think making money on that sports team is actually not the optimal goal in the short term. Long term, the value goes up.
How many owners you think have that much wealth accruity? So, like, for instance, the Buss family, that is their engine. The Lakers are their engine.
So that's one where the Lakers are.
James Dolan, for instance, like they have other things, but the Knicks are also their engine. Once James Dolan sells that, they're going to make like $8 billion because obviously they're located in the middle of New York. So I do think there's truth to that. But again, I think this whole CBA thing, y'all, it's made me realize more. This has nothing to do with parity, and that's the unfortunate part for the fan, because the fan wants to believe you're doing anything possible to build your team, but in all this stuff is just about the owners just don't want to pay the money. And so they have an excuse to be able to skate it, because now when we get into the second apron, we're doomed. So chill. For instance, like if you get in the second apron, you literally, if you have an injury, you're done. There is no replacing that contract, because you can't even like use first round picks and players and all that stuff. You can't even replace those players.
Insurance and stuff like that.
It's screwed. You're done. And then on top of that, you're penalized later on with financially and with your roster construction. So it's such a mess. And the players agreed to it because they're getting like certain licenses they wouldn't have had previously, and some of their own personal like stuff with like, you know, health stuff and medical stuff and everything else. But they didn't get a larger piece of the pot because the owners wanted more money on the other end, on their end, and the owners got it, and they got more control over the teams. So it's a mess, man. Like, and we're just now getting into the first year of this new CBA agreement, so we'll see how teams adjust going forward. But yo, that when I saw the Celtics, the ownership, they put up their bid yesterday, I said, "Oh, bro, it's wraps." You're gonna win the Boston Celtics.
Hey, you for 22 years. Cash out high. You just won a championship. That team, like you said, you cashed out at the peak.
That's smart.
I mean, I think it partially is about parity. I think it partially is about parity, but I think one of the consequences of the new CBA is going to be how much you're able to pay your third, fourth, and fifth guys, and that's really where championships are built. If you believe Draymond Green, he would tell you, like, you know, roster spots 3 to 8 is championships. Now, if you're a really smart executive, now Chilltown, you were saying like everyone's going to want to copy the Boston Celtics. Let them. They can't. The Boston Celtics have been constructed by two of the brightest executives, some of the brightest executives, and some very fortunate luck, opportunistic feeding, great drafting, a complete cluster F. I don't know if we're allowed to swear here, by Brooklyn. Like, it required a cascading number of things in order for that to happen.
What is that?
Golden State won't trade Kuminga.
Yeah, they wouldn't
trade Kuminga.
That's the final report on the other side. But that's also, bro.
Look what I'm saying. The Golden State Warriors right now, right? They won a championship 2022, right? They did this whole multiple timelines thing, right? James Wiseman was a screw up. We agree. We don't have to debate that, right? Jonathan Kuminga, if you consider the fact that Franz Wagner was available, Alperen Şengün was available, that's a screw up. Moses Moody, when you consider the fact that Trey Murphy III, Alperen Şengün were available, was a screw up. So you screwed up 3 lottery picks. Great teams typically do not have that track record with lottery picks. Usually you're going to get 1 out of 3 or 2 out of 5 if you're a great team.
Top
Nobody
10
hits
picks,
100.
by the way.
Multiple
top 10 picks.
Multiple top 10 picks.
Right.
You got to look at Orlando. Where would Orlando be if they had picked Davion Mitchell over Franz Wagner right now? They'd be screwed. They'd be cooked, right? So getting those draft picks right is a thing that organizations do well. Navigating the tax is what good organizations do. What the NBA, I believe, with the new CBA has done is dissuaded teams who manage well, draft well, scout well, infrastructure well, train well. Teams like the OKC Thunder, teams that had the foresight to develop the way that they develop. This is good business, honestly. Sending high draft picks to teams that don't know what they're doing with draft picks and having those careers ruined is not good business. Good business is sending players to OKC and having them develop them with one of the best shooting coaches in the league. And how do you get a team like OKC to compete in a league where Steve Ballmer exists? Because OKC is never going to spend into the luxury tax. Shoot, the Toronto Raptors are owned by a really huge corporation like MLSE, and they don't spend into the tax. The 1 year the Raptors spent in the tax, guess which year?
19.
Yep. The 1 year they won it is the 1 year they spent. And that's the point, because and that's smart business. As much as I don't give a shit about the the pocketbooks of MLSE, my point is a small market team must operate in such a financial way that you are not hamstringing yourselves. The Toronto Raptors moved off of Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby because they restructured the timeline around a draft pick that hit in Scotty Barnes. Is Pascal Siakam not way better than Bruce Brown and 3 first-round picks? Yes, but they believed long-term that would be a hindrance to their. And so the consequence of not thinking 4 or 5 years out. I mean, there are some owners who didn't think 2 years out. There are some owners right now. They're like, oh, we didn't know it was going to be this bad.
Yeah. Oklahoma City is a prime example of that. There's plenty of people who roasted Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City is great. They got Isaiah Hartenstein and they front loaded that contract. That's genius.
Well, not only did they get Hartenstein, I don't know if y'all noticed, but they re-upped Wiggins. Wiggins was the 55th pick in the draft last year, and they re-upped him.
That's what Ronnie gonna be.
Yes, sir. So they ended up re-upping him, but they roasted the Oklahoma City Thunder because they traded James Harden back in 2012, not realizing that, okay, they picked Ibaka over James Harden. Well, it wasn't just that. What we forget is Oklahoma City at that time, I don't know if you know this, Penn, but they were the 41st market in the NBA. They ended up saving $30 million trading James Harden. Saving $30 million trading James Harden. If you're a small market team like Oklahoma City, $30 million in 2012 is a lot of money. That's a lot of money to save, to use on free agents, to use on draft picks, as opposed to taking that money and spending it on James Harden, who may very well have turned into a great player, but you really hamper yourself when you're doing that. So teams like Oklahoma City, teams like Minnesota, teams like Portland, it's very difficult to sign free agents. So what I have to do, I got to get it right in the draft. I have to get it right in the draft. I can't have the number 4 pick. I can't have the number 3 pick and I'm Memphis and I'm passing on Pau Gasol. I can't do that. I got to get that right, because if I don't get that right, I'm going to end up in purgatory.
And to what Penn was saying too, I do think the NBA moved to more of the hockey side of salary cap than baseball, like I said, because they are penalizing teams that are drafting well after several years, right? To me, the right balance would be in a cap situation is if you draft the guy and you sign him. Is say if you sign him for 40, 50 mil a season, you should get a 10 to 20% discount on the luxury or cap hit of it. So if you draft the guy and you sign for 50 mil a season, maybe only 40 or 35 million counts towards the cap. So I do think you should be rewarded for drafting well and keeping those guys. While in this system right now, you draft really well. At some point, you're going to have to let a guy go, which is basically what happened in hockey. And, they basically destroyed dynasties. But I do think that lends itself to a better question. It seems like the league does want to go more of this parity route. But it's not necessarily a good thing. The past 6 years, we've had 6 different championships now, right, in the NBA. And we haven't seen that in, I don't know how long.
But look at how these teams were built, though.
Yeah.
But look at how these teams are built, Jalen, with the exception of this season, this season that just passed. The Celtics, they had Marcus Smart. They had Jason Tatum. They had Jalen Brown. They had Robbie Williams. We got all these guys in the draft. The year before that with Denver, you got Jamal Murray. You got Jamal Murray. You got MPJ. You got Joker. right? These guys, we get them in the draft. This is the way these teams are built. With the exception of the Lakers in 2020, the majority of those units, the Toronto Raptors in 19, that unit was built in the draft. So
no,
it wasn't.
No,
Marc Gasol was a trade.
Marc Gasol was a trade.
With the exception, I'm sorry.
I'll give you the full thing. Yeah, the Raptors are the exception.
With the exception of Kawhi Leonard, and if I'm not mistaken, if I'm being honest, I don't think that if you don't trade for Marc Gasol, I still think you win it with Valanciunas. I do.
I'm
with you with that. I'm with you with that. I think that's
me and on the same side on this. I've been arguing for Marc Gasol's impact for so long.
And I'm not saying that his impact wasn't huge. I'm not saying that, but to get Ibaka, right? To get Ibaka. Right, getting Ibaka.
That wasn't in the draft.
No, that wasn't. That was not in the draft.
Ibaka was traded for Terrence Ross. Let me give you the entire transactions thing in one.
Lowry was a trade too.
Lowry was a trade to Houston for a first-round pick that eventually would have been used for Giannis Antetokounmpo. So you could actually argue you lost that trade because the OKC Thunder picked Steven Adams and Masai was desperately trying to trade for that 12th pick. But they lost that pick in the Kyle Lowry trade because they lost out on Steve Nash in free agency. So there's that. Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard were a trade. Ironically, the players you traded for them were actually players you drafted, which is DeMar DeRozan and Jakob Poeltl. Serge Ibaka was a trade. You traded a player you drafted, Terrence Ross, to Orlando for Serge Ibaka, who they overpaid for and then had immediate buyer's remorse. Marc Gasol was also a trade, but he is a guy who was traded again for a player that you drafted, multiple players you drafted, which is Jonas Valanciunas and DeLon Wright. Norman Powell was a trade, Gravis Vasquez at the draft, but still, Fred VanVleet was an undrafted free agent.
Right.
OG Anunoby, who didn't play in the championship, was a draft pick. Pascal Siakam was a draft pick. Jeremy Lin was a signing. Who else was on that team?
You moved off of DeMar DeRozan to get Kawhi Leonard, who was also in the draft, but you ended up getting Kawhi Leonard. He wasn't.
But I'm saying that roster is unique because not because it was constructed through the draft, but actually because it was constructed without a single lottery pick. Isn't that crazy? It's the only. I think it's the only team in NBA history that won a championship without a lottery pick. Not a single guy in the top 14.
Who?
Toronto Raptors. 2019. Think about it.
That sounds true. So I'm gonna.
It is 100% true. They traded all ex-lottery guys: Valanciunas, DeMar, Jakob Poeltl. All those guys are ex-lottery guys.
How many All-Stars did they have on that team?
They
had Lowry and Leonard.
2.
Yeah, and then Siakam was also the next year, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Have all the champions had 2? Yeah. No.
Yeah, they've had multiple All-Stars.
I mean, but nevertheless, I see your point, and 6 different championships to answer your question, Jalen. Is that a good thing? I think it's a great thing.
See, that's the thing, though. If it's a good or bad thing, I do agree. I think there's some good things in parity, but I don't know if the NBA necessarily likes it because, I mean, if you look at kind of the numbers with NBA Finals, the rating system, even though the money's coming in, I think NBA fans like dynasties.
How are they measuring ratings when half the people are streaming these things?
Half of them there's more accessible to watch it.
Yeah. So, so obviously, 2024,
which we would never do.
You have more ways.
I would never do.
So 2024, you have more ways to watch without a doubt than in 98. 2005.
But I will say when the NFL put a playoff game on Peacock, I lost my mind. They put the Bills Chiefs game on Peacock last year. It made no sense.
No, but the thing is though too, like with the NFL, they're still doing a great job of bringing in those TV ratings, which are still the best way for these leagues to make money, right? It's still TV ratings, getting advertised, things of that nature. They're still doing a phenomenal job. Now people say that it is the age demographic thing. NBA viewers have to be a little younger, so it lends itself to more streaming options, things of that nature. But when it comes to NBA Finals, and even like let's say Super Bowl numbers are still great, the NBA Finals numbers haven't been great for a while. So some people are saying, again, this just a point or a thought that I want to put across is that do NBA fans just like dynasties more? Do they like following a certain core group of guys for several years?
That's across the board, Jalen. That's not.
Yeah,
that's
maybe
not
across sports. Yeah,
the NBA is a players' league, so
yes,
exactly.
People identify more with players.
Exactly. So
that's why Steph Curry has some of the best.
Yeah. Kobe, Shaq had the run. Duncan, the Spurs had the run. LeBron was making the fouls every year. Steph Curry, the Warriors. You got to follow these storylines that were built up year after year after year. While with 6 championships, with 6 different champions in 6 years, I just don't see it. I think, and again, the finals numbers may be reflective of this, maybe not. Depends on how you look at it. Is it indicative of people just not being able to kind of follow these big big key names or big storylines, and really it kind of changing every single year.
Well, if you think about, to your point, it being across the board, people are hypocrites in the aspect, and I was guilty of this in the past, but people can be hypocritical in the aspect that you want to see parity. No, you don't.
Yeah,
I watched the 2008 World Series between Tampa Bay and I think it was Tampa Bay and the Yankees, and Tampa didn't even sell out the arena. So the idea that you got, it was either 2007 or 2008.
It wasn't the Yankees. Yeah, it wasn't the Yankees.
It wasn't the Yankees. I'm sorry. They didn't sell out the arena. If you think about when the ratings in the NBA were at their lowest, when the NBA was getting better, it was in the 70s when you had the most parity. That's when it was at. It's because people couldn't really identify with the players because they didn't really know them. Games weren't really on TV that much. When the ratings got higher, it was Philly. They played against the Phillies. I do that's correct. So when the ratings got higher was when the Lakers started becoming better, when the Celtics started becoming better. That's when the ratings got higher. So the idea that parity is good, it's good in some aspect because I got an opportunity to win, but for ratings, no.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
If we being quite honest, Penn, not the majority of people don't care about the Toronto Raptors. They really don't.
I get that.
True.
When I lived in New York, I didn't care about the Toronto Raptors either.
Right.
I get it.
The majority of people don't. But I tell you what, if the Knicks was in the NBA championship, the ratings would go through the roof. If the Lakers were in the NBA championship, ratings would be a lot higher. 100%.
But see, this is what I'm saying. What you're getting is what you're measuring. You talk about ratings. So ratings, are we talking on YouTube? That doesn't count towards ratings. Anyone talking on YouTube, watching games on these apps, that's not counting towards ratings. So who are we trying to appease here? Are we trying to appease 60 and 70-year-olds who still have cable? Are we trying to appease 14-year-olds who are on TikTok?
Cho, I respect you. I would never say such a thing about you, Cho.
I'm not.
I promise you, Chill is not 60. Chill is not 60.
I'm not talking about.
I still have cable TV. Yes, I do.
I respect you. I'm an old soul. I still have cable TV too, but I'm talking about the modern generation. I mean, in a global environment in which population is booming, you have to understand the average human being is younger than me in the world right now. I am older than the average human being, which is wild to me conceptually, but it is true. Yeah. And also, we're talking about emerging markets. Basketball is a global game. It's going to Africa. It's going to Europe. It's going to Asia. Is that counting towards ratings? Are we counting that? North America is not
American,
everything.
Yeah, it's just American.
So you need to ask yourself, does the average European, Europe's a really huge continent, a lot of people there. Does the average Asian person, I think there was a stat once I read it, I think it blew my mind. I hope it's real, that more people play in China, more people play basketball in China than exist in the United States. So the world is big. The NBA has figured that out better than the NFL has, right? You still say NFL is number one in the United States.
So generating more revenue, yeah, without a doubt.
Right. And I understand your audience is probably very American centric, but as the lone member, I believe, who's probably checking on, not the lone member, Mars, you in Europe?
For the sake of this conversation,
Mars is in a safe house somewhere.
For this conversation, I will be the European. For this conversation, I'll be the European.
Okay, you got the accent, so you get to be European. But my point is, like, typically speaking, the world is a lot bigger than the United States. And I feel like as a person who grew up with American education in the United States, I didn't figure that out for a really long time until I left the United States, how big the rest of the world is in terms of contributing towards the NBA app downloads and Giannis jersey sales and stuff. It all counts, man. Money's green everywhere, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's like, I think the average person in the world was happy to see Milwaukee win one, right? I don't think the average person, I think what you need in the NBA is storylines. Mm-hmm. What I'm asking is, in the age of TikTok, where Hawk Tua girl is literally scrolling up and down my friggin' timeline, and it's going to be 15 minutes of fame, and no one's going to remember this in 2 weeks. Are we really sure that the average 15-year-old is ready for a 10-year commitment to the Lakers? Or are they like, yo, Anthony Edwards is Michael Jordan, and then move on? Like Luka Doncic is Larry Bird, and then move on. Every year, you know what I mean? Like, it's all.
So Pat, your argument is like there's just new consumer trends where the younger generation is not going to value these long-term storylines, but rather they'll go with kind of the it moment, who's hot for this year, the 6 months, and then move on.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. If the Spurs somehow by some miracle end up in the Western Conference Finals next year, is that a big story? If the OKC
where's-
Thunder just stop me when I come up with a bad outcome.
Mhm.
Spurs make it to the Western Conference Finals. Exciting.
Cool. It means Wemby would be amazing.
OKC wins
Next
the championship
level
next year. Is that exciting for you?
Say who?
Yes.
Who?
OKC
Oklahoma
wins,
City.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
wins the
Yes.
championship. They break through this young OKC team. The Houston Rockets, with all their draft picks and young players and whatever, they make it to the Western Conference.
Ain't
Finals.
nobody care about
Why we
Houston.
ain't? Why we
Ain't
ain't going to
nobody
the
care about
finals? We'll
Houston.
take it. We'll take it.
I think that's
cool
exciting.
story.
You know, you. I mean, yeah, there are certain teams where maybe the star is not very marketable and no one gives a shit, but most of those teams are not going to make it. I think, you know, if you end up with a Boston return to the finals, it'd be exciting to see someone other than Dallas there. It'd be nice to see Denver back. It'd be nice to see San Antonio or, you know, OKC there. I think that'll be great. You know, and just because we're increasing parity does not mean that the team that rises to the top won't stay there for a while, right? OKC can stay there for 2-3 years. If they make it to the top next year, and I'm not ruling that out, they'll be there for 2-3 years. Isaiah Hartenstein is a very good player. Alex Caruso is a really good player. You know what I mean? Like they can get there for 2-3 years. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is great. He might win MVP next year. So, you know what I mean? One thing I'm pretty sure about is it hurts teams like Denver that finally break through at the tail end of the window, right? You can make a case like Denver, they opened the window in 2021, and the pandemic, you know, unfortunately takes a little bit of juice out of that. They finally break through in 2023, and then it's already time. All their guys are already old. They're getting paid, et cetera, et cetera. So, and also I think maybe if Denver knew this new CBA was coming down the line, maybe they don't pay Michael Porter Jr. $35 million. Maybe they ease that up and pay him 28, 26. Maybe it allows a little bit more roster flexibility. So I don't know. And to the point of, you know, championships and what they're worth, I think most owners are trying to make money. I completely agree with Swiper. But to those who are winning championships, they're also trying to make money. Championships do equal money. There's a lot of baked in equity that you put back into your organization. If you look at the valuation of the Toronto Raptors and the Milwaukee Bucks after they won a championship, I guarantee you it justifies the cost they paid to win it. The only issue is there's no way to guarantee winning. You can only take a stab. I think the best way to build in the NBA, honestly, is to give yourself the longest window possible and a good shot every year for about 5 years. I think that's the best thing to do. I think Sam Presti and Danny Ainge have done the best job in the NBA in terms of constructing rosters. And I think the Houston Rockets are doing a pretty good job too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to shout out our members, and then I'm going to read super chats that pertain to the stuff we've spoke about, because that would make sense. And then I'll read super chats that flow into our next topics, because I'm a very good host. So shout out to Chris Louis for becoming a member. And shout out to Anthony Milligan for becoming a member. Also, no disrespect, bigger shout out to our Hall of Fame members, because, you know, they're Hall of Famers. So shout out to Gerality, Cobra Son of Raditz, Dorian Clayton, Kendall Daniels, and Mikkel for being Hall of Fame members. Shout out to you guys. You will be on the show on Friday, I believe, Hall of Fame Fridays. So yeah, shout out to you guys. Appreciate you guys, and appreciate everyone who's watching the show live right now. One thing I wanted to really get to real quick, Kundrel with a super chat. He said Jonas was not providing Marc Gasol's value in 3-and-D. Stop that show. Talking about the Raptors would have won.
I'd like to think as good as Marc Gasol was as a defender, I mean, I do think Ibaka has something to do with that. And that's not to take away from Marc Gasol as a defender, because I do think that he helped. 100% he was. I think he's a better defender than Valanciunas. However, I think that Valanciunas younger, the glass cleaner that he was, the fact that he could score around the rim, even though Marc Gasol could score, I don't think that they were losing that much, to be quite honest with you.
I watched Jonas.
I still think that they would win the NBA championship if they would have kept Valanciunas.
I watched Jonas Valanciunas every single year in the playoffs get schemed out. Gasol's ability, you know, that year, not to revisit 2019, there really were 3 or 4 NBA title contenders that year. Milwaukee was a really strong one in the East. The Raptors were, I think, behind them. The Sixers were ahead of them as well. I think the Sixers, go back and look at that Sixers team. JJ Redick, Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, you know, Tobias Harris. Was it Tobias Harris and Joel Embiid? They were really good. And what Marc Gasol did to Joel Embiid in that playoff series is literally the stuff I'm going to tell my kids about it. If I live that long, I will say, bro, you would not understand how badly this supposedly washed up totally old dude just schemed angles and just bothered this dude and made everything so hard for him. He got in his head. And it's crazy to me. You know, Marc Gasol that year and the year after was like the most open three-point shooter in the league. Teams just left him because he wasn't a good three-point shooter. But him getting out of the way, his passing ability is so underrated. It gave the Raptors offense so much more dynamicism. The fact that he just plugged and played mid-season trade and he just fit in. I liked Jonas Valanciunas, followed his career in Lithuania before the Raptors drafted him, loved him. I cannot tell you how big a gap there is between those two players. People will never understand it because they look at numbers.
I'm probably in the minority when I think about Valanciunas. I think about the glass cleaner that he is. How
He's
he
still not a better rebounder or defender at all.
It's the modern NBA versus the old school NBA, Cho.
Yeah.
It's like what it is. You look at a guy like Antonio Davis, right? That dude right there banging in the glass, you know, 12 and 12, right? That's
Raptor legend. That's Raptor legend.
Yeah, another Raptor legend.
PJ Brown, AC Green. You look at these guys.
Is that who you are equating Valanciunas to?
Valanciunas is definitely more skilled than an Antonio Davis.
That's what I'm thinking.
But yeah, yo, like you watch Valanciunas even now that his 3-point shot is expanded, and I'll tell you, his inability to get out of the way creates so many problems for the guards.
Right.
He's just out there camping. He's demanding the ball. That's not efficient offense. He's not going to generate, like, he can generate an advantage. He's not the greatest at finding the next advantage in your offense.
He still thrives more in the post just as a scorer and rebounder. Like, I think Valanciunas would.
He was giving Sengun work.
Yeah, like Valanciunas in 2000. I think like his game is more suited for like 2005 NBA, 2002 NBA than it is 2020 NBA.
Yeah, exactly. And I think just the gap there defensively and as a passer, and it's like you got Kawhi Leonard on your team. You don't need scoring as much from that position as you need playmaking.
That was obvious.
Short roll passing. And, you know, it like how many shots did Kawhi take in that game 7? I think he took like 43 shots. He shot terribly. But that's because the offense had to go through him because the rest of the roster was a lot of defenders. You know, when Kawhi launched that heavily contested bounce in shot, go back and freeze frame and see how open Pascal Siakam was on that play. He was never going to pass it to him. Oh, he was a shooter, bro. He was a 36% three.
Kawhi just
was giving it up. Yeah, the way.
Kawhi took a contested fadeaway 3-point shot over Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, arguably 2 of the top 10 defenders in the NBA at that time, contesting out to him instead of passing up to an open shot, and he hit it. That's my point. That's what you needed to do. That's how you built that team, you know, and that's why a lot of people think that, oh my God, it was Kawhi carried them. It wasn't that. The defense and the playmaking, the screen setting, the short roll passing, everything that Marc Gasol did, I, to this day, argue he was the 3rd most important, if not the 2nd most important player on that team. And people just think I'm crazy. People say, no, it was Pascal Siakam. No, it was this guy. No, Gasol was, you don't get past Philly without Gasol. All right.
Brian Pumper, this goes back to what Penn said about Maxey. He's agreeing with Penn. He said, Maxey is a leader. Coming from a 76ers fan, he actually keeps our locker room positive and upbeat. Joel is our best player, but he's not vocal.
You guys aren't in the locker room. Like, I get he could be a good leader, but come on. You guys
don't know where Brian Pumper is? You don't know where Brian Pumper is?
We're not in the locker room to really know that.
Brian Pumper been about, man. Going back to the owners and how many care about winning the championship. Jerry Reinsdorf from Rod, he said Jerry Reinsdorf clearly doesn't care about winning. That's the Bulls, right?
Yes, he was the owner of the Bulls.
I think they've made it clear they're just trying to sell seats, and Bulls fans keep buying them. So there's that. We got a couple super chats about Houston, so we could talk about the Houston Rockets real quick. I'm saving the ones about Klay because we're going to get into Klay. So Rod asked, what are the Rockets doing? And for anyone who doesn't know, Pikatron expanded on it. He said, Mars, did you see that Green and Sengun are not getting extensions? Personally, I'm out on Houston. The front office not smart. I disagree. I think it's smart to not extend them.
Yeah.
They're restricted next year. We can match any offers. We don't have to rush to pay anyone. There's no risk of us losing them.
And you keep yourself
especially in Jalen Green's case. Let's put it out there. Jalen Green hasn't even earned a max. So if we're being honest, there should be no conversations about giving Jalen Green a max. And this is from the biggest Jalen Green fan on the planet.
Jalen Green was the same guy that Mars. Yes. We weren't sure if Jalen Green would even be on the Rockets.
There should be no conversations. And I know his agent obviously doing their job. They're obviously having a conversation. But the Rockets shouldn't be entertaining giving Jalen Green a max. So we could just push that. He can play for his contract next year. We'll see where he lands. He's going to be a restricted free agent. I'm sure Houston will match unless it's something outrageous and he has a bad year. Then they probably won't match. Sengun has played well enough to merit a max. Everyone would probably agree on that. But when you get a guy outside of the lottery, which is similar to what Philly did, Philly didn't give Tyrese Maxey a max straight away. They let him enter restricted free agency. He's now earned that contract. He's getting $200 million, rightfully so. But the cap hold on a guy who got drafted 16th, there's no need for you to extend them right away. You don't need to do that. Now, we're a team that has so many great young players. We don't need to extend Sengun or even Jalen Green right away because in Houston's best interest, ideally, would be Jalen Green doesn't play particularly great next season and doesn't warrant a max, and they can extend him for like 20-25 million. That's a best case scenario for them. For Jalen Green, best case scenario is he gets a max right now. But for Houston, they don't need to rush into giving these guys maxes, especially when they're going to be restricted next year anyway. So if Sengun warrants a max, which he will, and a team offers him a max, Houston can match that offer. They're in no need to rush for any of this.
At this point in their careers, did you feel more comfortable maxing out LaMelo Ball or Jalen Green?
LaMelo.
Cade.
But I think I want to clarify even if I think Jalen Green has a higher ceiling than those guys, I'm not getting into that. With the amount of riches Houston has in terms of young players, the value of a Jalen Green is lesser than what Detroit have with Cade. Cade is really their shining light, in my opinion. Cade is their shining light. LaMelo before Brandon Miller was Charlotte's shining light. So you kind of have to give those guys a match. You don't have anyone else. Jalen Green on the Rockets, they have Amen Thompson. They have Jabari. They have Tyrese. And they have Cam
Shepard.
They've just got Reed Shepard. So Jalen Green, his worth on the Rockets isn't 40 million. The same way Cade's value on the Pistons.
You think they can get a decent haul for Jalen?
If he's playing solid next season, and I mean like he's not inefficient, he still continues to develop as a playmaker, all of those things, and Houston want to move him because they don't want to give him a max, I think he'd have good value for a team that wants to build with someone with high upside. I think he'd have good value. But
go with Reed and Amen, do you think?
Yeah, I think that would probably be the direction they go because Reed can shoot. He complements Amen Thompson. Amen Thompson's decision-making, playmaking, downhill ability, if he can dribble the ball better, it would make more sense for them to move off of Jalen than I think anyone else in that young core.
So wait,
him and Cam would probably be most redundant.
Amen was 4th in the draft. Reed was 3rd. Jalen was 2. Şengün
Jabari was 3rd.
Scotty was 4th.
Şengün was 16th. Who else did they have?
Sorry, Scotty was 4th. Who'd you say was 4th?
He said Amen was 4th. Amen was 4th last year. Yeah,
Oh,
Scotty
okay,
was.
my bad.
Jalen was 2nd. So Amen 4th, Jalen 2nd, Jabari 3rd, Cam 20th, Tari 17, Sengun 16.
That's
Reed number 3.
That's incredible. I've honestly never. I mean, to be a team that's at the top of the draft that often. I mean, it must be insane. It really must be insane. I've never experienced a franchise.
But for what it's worth, that 3rd pick this year was Brooklyn's, so that wasn't us.
Right.
So that was Brooklyn. But and the Tyrese pick was Brooklyn as well. And Cam Whitmore, I can't remember how we got Cam Whitmore, I'm gonna be honest. And then Jalen was us, Jabari was us, and Sengun was a trade somewhere. I can't remember. But I don't think Houston is stupid. If I'm honest, I don't think Houston is stupid. Then we've got a Dallas super chat, which we can get to afterwards. So OJ Simpson, hello. He said the Timberwolves are in for Lowry. How? I didn't hear about that. You guys heard about that?
Neither. No,
Well, they got mentioned, so obviously it's Karl Anthony Towns. And then maybe if you're the Timberwolves, do you think Karl Anthony Towns and the rights to Rob Dillingham? Would that be something you'd be willing to do?
Even work under the CBA.
I don't think they're moving Cat. I think
Cat's making 50
they're a second
million,
April
right?
team now,
Cat's making 50 million.
50 million.
And Lowry's making like 20. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that wouldn't. I don't.
Let me see what the trade.
I think they're trying to add marketing while keeping Cat,
No.
Anthony Edwards, and all
No.
those players.
So
They're not
what they
getting rid
offer
of
up?
Rudy
Kyle
Gobert.
Anderson? What they offering?
Look, I don't know, man. Maybe it's a bunch of draft picks. Could be 6. Like, the way that people throw it
Well,
around.
they gave
draft
up their
picks,
future
gave
picks
up
to
a
the
couple
Spurs.
for- yeah.
They gave up.
I gotta say this Houston thing that I just circle back on this for a second here. This not extending guys, if you believe in them, right? It's risky. The reason I say it's risky, not because of restricted free agency. Obviously, you can match any offer. It's risky because it damages, in my opinion, again, when you're seeing Scotty Barnes and Cade Cunningham getting these extensions, if you're Alperen Şengün, you got your representative telling you, no, they're going to let you go bet on yourself. They're going to let you go and try to find an offer. Kind of like, I think you burn bridges on that relationship.
But why though, Penn? I don't understand why, man. Isn't that just smart business? Don't get me wrong. That's what the restricted free agent. That's what the restricted free agent was built for. I'm not saying that I won't pay you. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to compete with myself because I know that I can pay you the most. I'm not going to do that.
But so it may be smart, but like, and I don't know how Sengun feels, but Sengun seeing guys from his draft class who I know he thinks he's better than, and I think he's entitled to believe he's better than Cade's and Sweaty Barnes.
Sure.
And they're getting 200+ million. Cade's getting made just 216, I think. Scotty's is up to 270 if he makes.
They both got 220. They both got 225. If either one of them make All NBA, they're both 270,
right? Yeah, that. So he's seeing that same draft class. He probably thinks he's better than them. Whether or not you agree, irrelevant. He thinks he's better than them, and I think he's entitled to be in that conversation. And he's gonna have to go into restricted free agency. I feel like, I don't know how Sengun feels, but I can understand the perspective of, why am I not being given this same level of respect within the franchise?
There's a lot of smoke about Ime not necessarily loving Şengün, though,
which I think is nonsense. But
or Jalen Green either.
Well, Jalen Green didn't deserve a max, though.
That's exactly it. And yes. I'm not completely sure Şengün will necessarily generate a max either, because he doesn't fit into every single roster. Okay, and Jalen Green doesn't fit into every single roster. And I'm not trying to get in trouble with the Cade and all that stuff talk, because every time I bring up Cade or Jalen Green, the chat goes crazy and I get trolled for like a week and I get death threats in my emails. Okay, what I'm going to say is that you preserve relationships with agencies. You got to understand how these agency favors work. And I'm just going to put y'all in game for a second. The guy that you pissing off right now with, if let's just say hypothetically that Alperen Şengün's representatives are upset. They can understand this Jalen Green thing, but they're upset. I guarantee you, if you burn that relationship with that agency, that's 45 to 50 players potentially that are not going to be able to work out for you in future years. They're going to try to push trades away from you. They're going to demand trades. I understand the old school mentality of, no, go earn your paper, go earn your money. I get all of that. But what happens if Alperen Şengün has a bad year because he twists his ankle or he has a tough, shooting form, or he gets benched? Now you got dysfunction in your locker room. You're bringing that into your culture. These guys know that, holy, like they're forcing me to bet on myself. Look, I'm just saying, sometimes it's battle and war, right? You lose the battle to win the war. I think that's the saying. The Raptors just did this with Emmanuel Quickley. Could they have told Emmanuel Quickley, go get an offer from San Antonio and go get an offer? But you don't think that preserves or helps the relationship to just say, no, we have faith in you. We're just going to show this and we're going to overpay you right now because
we've seen that. And that's been a mistake in the past with teams. We've seen teams overpay for guys. And then in 2 years, this contract looks awful. This contract looks like something that there's no reason. Now, I can appreciate the logic that if we overpay for this guy, well, this may on the other end down the line get us another guy from this agency. I can appreciate that. But we don't want to look that far down the line. We're thinking about what's going on right now. And Emmanuel Quickley is a damn good young player. Not only is Emmanuel Quickley a damn good young player, the Toronto Raptors seem like they have a plan. It seems like they have a plan where they're building this thing around Scotty Barnes. They're building this thing around RJ Barrett. So it looks like that they have a.
I think they overpaid for him. I think they overpaid for him, but I get why they did it. And I get why, if right now you show some faith to Jalen Green. Now, it's also possibly you don't have an extension done because the two sides are very widely apart on what they think these guys are worth. Yeah. Jalen Green might be like, hey, I think I'm better than Cade Cunningham. And I honestly, I think he might even be able to say that with a straight face. And, if he's like, hey, he was a second pick, he was the first pick, I was the second pick, Scotty was the fourth pick. Yo, I'm in that conversation. You're not going to treat me like I'm Jalen Suggs, right? Franz Wagner, he can come out with that same thing. But, you say no, go out there. You're risking injury. You're risking a cold shooting season. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. And now you start feeling that pressure. That can really burn the relationship. But I'm not looking at the relationship with that player. I'm looking at the relationship around the league. Why is LeBron choosing? Think about this. Why did LeBron choose the Lakers? You don't think it has something to do with how they treated Kobe? You don't think it has something to do with how they treated Kobe in his legacy years? Of course it did. I think it did. So That
It's
to
in
me,
LA, it's in Hollywood.
Yeah, I think the LA Hollywood. I get what you're saying, though, Pen. I get what you're saying. Players do how teams how teams protect their stars or the relationship they have with their star players, how they treat them, definitely matters for players, and they talk among themselves for sure.
That's why Tracy McGrady didn't end up with the Bulls, because he saw how they treated Tracy McGrady. Actually, not Tracy McGrady, but Kevin Garnett. He also said that, how they treated Scottie Pippen. He said that.
Absolutely. And these things have to matter. And so, you might, if you're a fan of a team that overpays a certain guy, like I was very upset that the Raptors overpaid Gary Trent Jr. I think they paid him $51 million. I was like, what? $51 million for 3 years? He didn't deserve this. I was upset, like they've overpaid some guys in the past, and you're just like, oh, they're paying the Canada tax. But the truth is they're preserving that relationship with Clutch. They're preserving that relationship with CAA by not going out of bounds on these. And then next thing you know, you're getting a guy dropping to a 57 in the draft that you wanted at 30, but they basically swore all the teams off of that guy because that was the favor back, right? You're getting a bit of a haircut on one contract. You're getting some guys pushing a trade towards you. Again, you don't want to get blacklisted. You don't want to get blacklisted.
You talking about some stuff that's relevant and all. That's cool, but Şengün and them still ain't gonna get no max. Şengün, I'm good with. That's fine. I think Şengün, if you want to give him because he's 21, 9 and 5, I really ain't got no issue with that. I think Şengün's a really good basketball player. But to say make you wait to a restricted free agency, like, are you going to be healthy going into the next year? Like, are you going to develop going into the next year? Do you fit Ime Udoka's system? They gave Ime a bunch of money and the keys. So if Ime says, no, not yet, then they're not going to do it yet because this is Ime's team. Ultimately, they made the commitment to do that. And Jalen Green, I don't care if he's from CAA, Clutch, WWF, it don't matter. He's not getting a max from me. Just with all due respect. I think Jalen can grow into that, but I'm not trying to put my team in it. Now, think about this.
What would you sign him for?
Hold on. That's 41 for Fred VanVleet.
Swiper salty. Jalen Green was giving his team 30. That's
right. That's 41 for Fred VanVleet.
That's done this year.
22.
That comes off the books after this year.
Dylan Brooks is at
20. Fred comes off the book after this year, and Dylan Brooks' contract.
Well, Fred has a 3-year deal, I thought.
It's a team option.
We're not picking up a $40 million team option. No way.
Who knows? I don't know. It's Raphael Stone.
We're not picking up.
Then you'll have those two with you just threw off my tracker, and then Jabari has to get paid. Jabari's on year 4. This year 4 for Jabari?
No, he's going into year 3. He's going into year 3.
What was his deal that he got?
It's a rook deal.
So he's on a rookie top 3 pick.
He's
so
going
into
year 3.
Yeah, he'll probably get like 20 million somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
He'll get 20.
He's going his rook deal.
Yeah, so he's going into year 3. So that means
a max for Şengün for sure. 25 for Jalen, or 30 or 40 for Jalen, and then 25 for Jabari, more than likely, given that he's a 4, or 30 for Jabari, given he's a 4. That's a lot of bread. And then now we're going into the apron, and that's my core. And then I got Reed and Amen and them coming up. That's a lot, bro. So I mean,
we'll see how they navigate. It's tough.
But that's the bonus of having
to earn his contract.
But that's the bonus of having 3 guys like Amen and Cam Whitmore, and you got this year Reed Shepherd, who's pretty NBA ready in my opinion. So you got 3 guys on rookie contracts for at least the next 3.5 years. I mean, that's 3 years plus. Those are the value deals now.
Mm-hmm.
Because we got to think about contracts in aggregate. You can pay Nikola Jokic. I mean, you can pay Michael Porter Jr. $35 million because you're getting a haircut on Jokic. And you might say Jokic is a max player because I can see from your face. But be honest, if there was no cap on how much you could pay Nikola Jokic,
you're not getting a haircut because
you are getting a haircut because if there was no cap,
35%. No. I get what you're saying, market value, but you're still paying 35% of your cap.
That's irrelevant because me paying Cade Cunningham the same money as you paying Nikola Jokic is the haircut. That's what I'm talking about. If there was no cap,
you're still taking a percentage of the cap.
No, if this was soccer, right? If there's no cap, right? I just throw whatever money at this guy. Right now in the NBA, I have to pay Cade the same money I have to pay Scotty Barnes, the same money I have to pay Şengün, the same money I have to pay Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the same money I have to pay Nikola Jokic. But if there was no cap on this, Nikola Jokic is going to get more money than those guys.
You're saying the top players in the league are getting screwed because of the cap situation.
The top players have always gotten screwed. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. If you have one of those guys, you can overpay the second option and the third option, like Jamal Murray. You can argue all day that he's worth $36 million. He's not. But on that team,
which player?
Jamal Murray.
I don't agree with any of your logic in this segment though. So I mean, we're not gonna agree with this. That's just the way the NBA works. Your proportion based on value to the team for every team, and because the way it's set up, a supermax you're getting 35% of the cap space regardless. A max you're getting 30% of the cap space regardless. Your rookie scale 25 to 27% regardless. So all that stuff there's still a fix on every team of how much you're getting. So for me, going back to this, Şengün, no issue. But then getting back to, like I said, Jalen Green and all that, that's just not happening. Because again, for me, I think Reed Shepherd and Amen are probably going to be their future. I think Reed's going to be great. I'm of the same mindset as you. I think Reed's going to be a really good player.
At some point,
Reed about to be Jimmer for that, man.
At some point, Victor Wembanyama and Brandon Miller are going to sign the same damn deal because they're the number 1 and number 3 pick. If Scoot Henderson turns his career around, he's going to get paid the same amount of money as Victor Wembanyama. In a league where Victor Wembanyama is worth 12 Scoot Hendersons, it matters that you're paying Victor Wembanyama the same amount as Scoot Henderson when you're talking about signing his second star. You're scrunching up your face and you don't seem to be liking what I'm saying, but it doesn't make what I'm saying any less true. The top paid stars like LeBron James and Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid have always been underpaid relative to their actual value.
Who's disagreeing with that? And where did that point come from?
You said I disagree with your entire logic in this whole thing because I brought up Nikola Jokic.
I've already agreed that on open market, all these players, including Alperen Şengün, would be getting more.
You think Alperen Şengün would exceed the current max contract?
Of course. That relative to the value of the market in Houston, Texas, of course.
Okay, fair. Yeah. So my point is that ultimately you cannot pay Jalen Green that amount of money. I get that. What I wanted to ask you is, what would you pay Jalen Green? If you could extend them
what's a fair deal? His contract is up today, Swiper. This summer, his contract is up. What's a fair deal for Jalen Green today?
There's upside and downside value on both sides. If Jalen Green pops off and scores 26 points per game and he's a hot commodity, you have to pay him a max. So you might as well try to lock him in at 150.
Yeah, Jalen Green he's not better than Emmanuel quickly.
So or Mars, that last month and a half that I saw with Jalen Green, is that fool's gold or is that something to build on? That's why I think that
up to interpretation.
Yes, that's tough to. I don't.
So the optimist would say he turned a corner. The pessimist would say it was
100
short sample size.
Player averaging 30 points per game per 100, 7.9 rebounds, 5.4 assists, and shooting 49.8% from 2, 33% from 3, and then 80% from the line. I mean, that's a pretty good player.
How many games again? You said last 10 games. How many games?
He played 82 games last year.
He played every game. The sample of when he really turned it around is maybe a 20 games.
Right.
Core of the season. If you're optimistic, 25% of the season.
Let's see this season.
Would you give him would you give him Emmanuel Quickly money? Would you give him 175.5?
Oh yeah, I mean I think that's reasonable for. I think Emmanuel Quickly
35 a year basically.
No. I'm saying, would you give Jalen Green 175.5?
Yeah, I think that's fair though, but based on where he is. But Emmanuel Quickly is not getting a max either. But I also think they paid him because of the trade. Like they need to pay him. They have to pay him.
I'm saying, would you pay Jalen Green?
I just agree with you. I heard.
Yes. You would pay him 175.5. That's not that far away from. That's not that far away from 225. That's 10 million a year. Okay, cool. That's 10 million a year.
You say 10 million a year. Solid.
It sounds to me like your issue isn't the actual money more than it is the 35% of the cap. That's the issue. Whether it's in Detroit, whether it's in New York, whether it's in Minnesota, it's 35% of the cap.
You have to make decisions. Is this player at 35% of my cap worth me investing this amount of money in? And is because there are going to be roster limitations because of this signing. Right. Is this player worth those roster limitations? Is what you're asking. If you're asking me, I don't think Jalen Green is going to be a number 2. That's going to be leading them to a high-level playoff team. So, therefore, I'm saying that he's probably not going to be worth that money. And given the fact that Alperen Şengün is going to be on the roster, then they're both going to be making the same thing, roughly, then I think that you're going to put yourself in a bind, given that one of these players is likely to improve. One of them may improve a little bit. But even with that, these are your 2 highest paid players. Are you competing versus these other teams that have the similar structure? Are they going to be able to beat those teams like in a playoff setting? And again, if you're asking, go ahead.
Well, you asked the question you're asking that question based on Sengun not getting better Jalen Green
I
not
think he
getting
will
better.
get better.
And exactly, that's why we pay.
I don't know if Jalen Green is the one to get better in that system.
To be honest with you, I do believe that he's going to get better. Now,
that's fine, but do you think he's going to be worth more than Reed Shepherd and Amon Thompson for them?
I do. Yes,
you have all three, and two of those guys on a rookie contract.
To be honest with you,
we don't have to worry about Reed Shepherd till like 2029.
No, I agree.
But that's the whole point. You got to start thinking about this. Like, I understand what you're saying, Swiper. 35%, 20%, 25%. You know, this is what you pay a starter. This is what you pay, you know, a star. This is what you pay a superstar. I get all that, but I'm saying there are certain extenuating circumstances when you have a team like Houston. You're not operating by the rules that the rest of the team is operating under. Like, number one, you have the tax situation in Texas, so you have a benefit there. Number two, you have all these really young players who are already contributing for you on rookie deals, which are a steal, right? The average rookie does not contribute to winning until year 3, your year 4, if you're lucky, if they ever do, right? They got all these rookies, and I think Reed Shepherd's going to add to that like rookies, second-year players, and those contracts are on the same book that, and then you'll have Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks fall off. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying go max out Jalen Green right now, but I'm saying like it could work out so that, you know, Amen Thompson provides you stellar value in the final year of his rookie deal, which offsets the slight overpay on Jalen Green. You got to think of players as combinations on positions as opposed to individual contracts, because again, 25% of your cap for Michael Porter Jr. makes 0% sense to me, unless you're adding it to what is already valuable on the rest of your roster. If you get, you're a Denver Nuggets guy, if you get a surprise pop from guys like Christian Brown, Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson next year, like if those guys take a massive step up, suddenly they are adding, their underpayment is helping to compensate for the overpayment on the rest of your roster. You have to think of rosters as an aggregate situation. It's always a 15-person thing.
Yeah, I think with the new CBA, I just don't think that's the formula anymore. I do understand historically why that works, but I think that Porter has to live up to 35. Even if Christian Brown is exceptional, Peyton Watson's exceptional, DeRon Holmes could be exceptional, but if Porter's like, I also don't want to point at him. He played 81 games last year. He was really good in the first round. He just fell apart in the second round. So I think some of this is just a matter of you have to just make sure that whatever you're doing, whatever decisions you're making, this is going to affect you 4 to 5 years down the line, not just with your roster construction, but now you have to consider the bill you're going to be putting forth because of this. Like, so your luxury tax, how much you're paying. And so if you're asking me, then I'm personally not going to pay Jalen Green. But that's just me. I would be more so wait a year. But Alperen Şengün, I have no issue with. I think Şengün has earned that. I think he deserves that. I think Jalen just needs to show me a little bit more than a month.
He will. But we gotta get into the Warriors and stuff. We got a couple chats about the Warriors. Prince DJ, who's been a member for 15 months. Shout out to Prince DJ. This is for Chill, so really I should wait for Chill to be back. So let me just remove that. G Firm, he said, I don't put much stock in both the Paul George and the Klay Thompson signing. Both are roster eye candy, in my opinion, just as Joe Johnson once was.
That's wild.
I do think Paul George is a significantly better signing than
Paul
Klay.
George would be really good with 76ers.
Well, Clay's gonna be making what, about 17 a year, right?
Yeah,
3 years.
3 years.
I mean, yeah, since we've been talking about cap and money for 17 mil, taking the chance.
Tim Hardaway was making what, like
Hardaway
17?
number,
I get it.
Yeah, so
But
they replaced Tim Hardaway.
Yeah.
Do you think they're cooked defensively with Klay?
That's the thing, though.
But they got
That's
Najee Marshall.
No, but I'm saying,
Kyrie, Luka, and Klay as their 1, 2, and 3.
Is Najee closing for them? Do you think
he should?
Welcome back, Joe. I have no idea. I don't know how they're gonna navigate this because
Najee's incredible for $9 million. That was an incredible.
Bro,
Clay's not go. I don't think Clay's signing somewhere to not close in lineups. Yeah. Kai said the Mavs just got light skinned Tim Hardaway, which is I was just talking about the money aspect. I'm not saying that, but from because the Warriors offered Klay 2 years, 48, which is more money than what Dallas had just offered him. So I don't think it was about the money with Klay. There's also the report said state taxes. I understand Texas and California. That's different. So I understand that, but I feel like some of it was Brandon Podziemski starting over him.
I think Klay wants to prove to the Warriors. Hey,
and I think some of it is Wiggins gets 4 years, 109. Draymond's getting 4 years, 100. You gave Jordan Poole 4 years, 130, and you're offering me 2 years, 48. I think that probably played a part into it too. So like a pride thing, like after everything he's done for the franchise, they're gonna do him like
Well,
that.
the argument from Warriors fans is that, well, on the other end, they gave you a max after you tore your ACL. So
On their side, they already paid you. Like they already gave you a kind of a quote unquote handout for what you've already accomplished.
I'm not on any side with that. I think you just have to make the best decision for yourself. And he turned down more money apparently with the Lakers and went to the Mavs.
That's still California taxes though. 4 years 80. I don't know. Like this is why we need Ox. Ox has his little tax calculator. 4 years 80 in California. Versus
he got more money in
50.
Dallas with the taxes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he got more money with the Dallas.
Yeah, so like that plays a part in it. But while you look that up, Swiper, Prince DJ, he said, chill. Draymond destroying that dynasty is an art form. He got KD out of there, he punched Paul out of there, and got paid dumb money, so he got Klay out of there. Truly masterful. So shout out to him. You guys think Draymond's to blame for all of this?
No.
If you told me that after that second championship with Durant after they went back to back, that Draymond would be here after and that Kevin Durant would left, and Klay was gone, I would have called you crazy. I thought Draymond would have been the first one to leave at this time. So him being there is pretty wild.
What's your salary per year? So let's say, if you got a $40 million contract for 5 years, let's see what that looks like, Mars. That's Mars YouTube money one day. Let's see.
Oh, no, I didn't do anything on YouTube. I'm just here.
So your estimated take-home pay on a $40 million a year contract, huh?
23 million or something.
Yeah.
Oh wait, sorry. It only lets me go to 10 million for some reason.
Okay, so 10 million.
Yeah. So your estimated monthly take-home pay on 10 million is $194,527, and you have 50.87% that go to taxes.
Half. God damn.
You have 2.4% that go to FICA, state insurance, all that other stuff. So your take-home salary is 46.69% of that income.
So you got 4.6 million.
So your gross check every month is $416,667. And then
that's without agent fees. I'm saying you got to pay your
agents, everything else, savings, all that stuff.
401 and
10 million.
So I would just never go to anywhere in California. Basically,
that's what it sounds like to me. It doesn't.
That's all that's telling.
1% tax money. I mean, again,
taxes are supposed to
be fair. I want to be clear here. If you're gonna tax someone, you tax what you tax wealthy people, like because people are gonna say, well, what tax the poor? I'm like, so somebody making $15 an hour getting taxed 50% is much different. Much different.
Way different. Yeah.
4.6 million a season, you'll still be fine. Like you'll be fine with 4.6.
Well, yeah, you'll survive. Obviously, you're not gonna die. But like,
you can live very comfortably.
Now, in Texas, y'all, and guess what? In Texas,
$8 million,
$10 million a year, you get $254,236, which is roughly $57,000 more, and you get 36.5% of your taxes up from your check up to taxes. So your gross. You basically would be bringing in 416 again. You keep 254. That's legit. Chill. An extra 57 in my pocket.
Wait, so 35. So you're keeping about 6.5.
7.5. Yeah, 6.
No, your tax. You have a 15. It's a 15% difference basically between state taxes in California and in Texas.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Klay took that money. Klay took the deal in Dallas as an FU.
Man, this is a great. This is a great episode today. We've gone through the second and first apron, taxes.
No, but people gonna be mad because we're not yelling.
Are you saying that we're talking basketball, Swipe?
We're talking real hoop. This is real
basketball. Because I'm not yelling at you, Swipe. What are you talking about? Because we're not doing that.
I don't gotta hear Jason Tatum top 3 players.
There we go.
We need to yell at each other.
There it goes.
We need to have narrative talks about Bronny James for views.
Oh, that's a stupid chat about Bronny James.
Yeah, we gotta get to that one.
Mars, to your point, I think Klay took that money in Dallas. I think he took that as an FU. I think Klay values himself as a legacy guy with the Golden State Warriors. And what I mean when I say a legacy guy, he looks at himself like James Worthy with the Lakers. He looks at himself like Scottie Pippen with the Bulls. He looks at himself like that. And I feel like with this contract, that $48 million for 2 years, that was a slap in the face to him. He wasn't probably looking at $120 million, but 3 years at $75 million, I think that's something that he was looking at more realistically. And the fact that they only came with $48 million. Listen, when I first got on this crew, this Golden State Warriors team had won one playoff series in over 2 decades. That's it. One. When they built this thing with me on the crew, we now go to the NBA championship 6 times in 8 years, winning it 4. I was a huge part of that. I think Klay is looking for thank you money. And that's not ridiculous because the Los Angeles Lakers at that time, that 2 years for $50 million for Kobe Bryant, that was thank you money. And it was worth it too. Because 100% what he did for them and what he made them. Michael Jordan, when he was playing for the Bulls, when he was signing those 1-year deals, that was thank you money. Thanks for everything you did for us, Mike.
Did he make 30 in this last year?
30, it was 30, it was 34, and it was 36. That was thank you money. And I think Klay, I don't think he looks at himself as the caliber player like those guys, but I think he looks at himself like I'm a legacy guy with the Golden State Warriors, whom they're going to build a statue of me outside the arena one day. And because of that, I deserve to be respected more. And for you to come to me with $48 million over 2 years, that's a little bit of money for everything that I did for this organization.
A statue? I think he can get his jersey retired.
Well, apparently they wanted to
he's definitely getting his jersey
another
retired.
rumor they wanted to bring him off the bench next year for pods. That's
which
also
he said he would have done that. Which he said he would have done that. Which he said he would have done that. And not only would he have done that, if you guys remember, when was he the most effective last year? When he went into the rotation. But Steve Kerr bought the logic when he started playing well. I'm going to put him back in the starting lineup. No, that was a bad idea. Bad idea.
I feel like, and the report I saw, I can't remember where I read it. Well, I read it on Twitter, but I can't remember who the reporter was. That apparently the Warriors felt like Klay was just as much of a distraction as Draymond was in terms of his antics.
That too.
Right.
Because you see it on the court, like he misses a shot, the demeanor, how disappointed I'll say he is in himself, or when he doesn't get the ball and those things. Apparently they're saying if that's what you're seeing on the court, in the locker room and in practice, it's just tenfold, it's worse. Which I can understand if that's how they view it, and they just view he's not worth the hassle that they believe he was. 2 years, 48, I think that's good money, but for everything he's done, being the third, fourth most important piece of that dynasty, and Splash Brothers, all the threes he's made, all the impact, offense, defense, all of those things, everything he's done, maybe he felt he was worthy of a longer contract of 4 years, 100, like Draymond got, somewhere in that range. So maybe he just felt slighted. And also, Dallas gives him opportunity. Maybe he's out of the big three in Golden State. Maybe he retires with the most rings. Maybe he retires with 5 and they have 4. Maybe he goes out with, well, I won the most rings out of us 3. So looking back on it more fun, maybe that's the case. I don't know. But I'm assuming winning was a part of the decision, because if the Lakers could have offered him more and the Warriors offered him more, maybe he does want to go out with more rings than the other two. Maybe he wants to show he can still contribute on a championship level
and stick it to him. 100%.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Yeah,
I mean, this is such a fascinating discussion. But I think, if you go to the Los Angeles Lakers as this missing piece that LeBron sacrificed money for, you got a target on your back. You got a major target on your back. No matter how confident you are in your ability, you will be the scapegoat for everything wrong with the Lakers, just same way Danny Green was, in my opinion. So I think that I think this is not going to end well. Regardless of where he had gone, I don't think this is going to end super well. I think the regression is very real with him.
Very real.
Now, the defensive regression has been the most glaring thing, but the offensive regression is also real. I think there are durability concerns with a guy who, relatively healthy, has come off some serious injuries. I think, to me, though, the biggest concern is, where does he think he is right now at the age of 35 as a basketball player? See, I have seen guys age very gracefully, and I have seen guys age very poorly in the NBA. An example of a guy who aged very, very poorly. Yo, Pete, they want me to come off the bench. Carmelo Anthony, Allen Iverson. Love those guys. Didn't age super well because they didn't really fall back. They didn't do that thing that Vince Carter did. I think the best examples of fading back are guys like Tim Duncan and Vince Carter, Dirk Nowitzki, who were able to make themselves less of a priority in the offense. And I just think that, I understand the Klay Thompson thing, that entire thing that came out about him, like, it was immediate. It was damage control. To me, that's damage control. I believe somebody leaked that from the Warriors organization that wanted people to know, hey, it wasn't a purely basketball decision. It's also about this other stuff. We're kind of sick of this antics of attitude, to the point of, people crying foul, Kendrick Perkins saying, oh my God, they did him dirty. They owed him money. Bro, they paid him for 2 years while he rehabbed. How much money was that? It was $80 million to not play basketball.
First, whoa, stop.
But
right
that's
there.
guaranteed. They paid him after the ACL, knowing it was the ACL. So that was great. But they didn't know he was going to miss 2 years.
Which, by the way,
was guaranteed at that point. So it's like,
which, by the way, Mars, I blew my ACL out in the NBA Finals on the job. It wasn't like I was on jet skis or a motorcycle or some nonsense.
And he tried to come back in that game too.
I did do that. That's number one. And on top of that, I got hurt rehabbing my ACL
in practice.
So it wasn't like I got hurt doing something else. No,
all
I got
on
hurt
company
rehabbing
time.
my ACL. But
Pen
to your point, because you just brought up an interesting point. Would this be the same logic like with when Draymond swung on Jordan Poole? Like that's damage control? Because when I think about like that tape should have never gotten out. We should have never seen that. Because I'm 100% confident that it's stuff like that going on in facilities on the regular. I mean, I heard Zach Randolph talking about him getting in a fight with Ruben Patterson. I'm hearing Lonzo Mourning getting in a fight with Kenya Martin. This kind of stuff happens all the time.
All the time.
So tapes like that are going to get leaked every day.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I mean. So is this damage control? Would this be the equivalent of what Golden State did with Draymond, or not?
I think it's different. I think here you're trying to come out as you were trying to come out as you're not dysfunctional, that you not inmates running the asylum sort of situation. Here you're trying to come out as we're not cheap. Now, honestly, the fact that the Golden State Warriors and Joe Lacob, look at their tax bill. Look at their tax bill for the last 6 years. These players, the organizations win players. Organizations don't win championships. Players win championships. Quote from the great Michael Jordan. Honestly, it's a little bit of both, bro. Organizations do win championships. You do have to give credit to an ownership group that's willing to go into the tax and manage correctly. They did draft these guys. They did find Draymond in the third, in the second round. They did extend these guys to very big deals. They paid crazy luxury tax bills for random contracts like Kelly Oubre and D'Angelo Russell. They've paid crazy into the tax to keep this team competitive. And, to me, it's like we're not too far removed from Dirk Nowitzki and guys like Tim Duncan taking pay cuts at the end of their career to stay with the franchise that gave them these wonderful opportunities. There's a little bit of gratitude on both sides. It's a partnership. It has to be a partnership. And I have no doubt towards the end of his career that Nikola Jokic and someone like that who's cut from that cloth will do the same thing. That if there's an opportunity, that it's not going to be about me. It's going to be about extending my window. I'm not able to give you 82 games anymore. I'm not able to give you the same player. Why should I compromise my final 2-3 years of competitive basketball to chase money when I've already made all this money? But now in today's age, it's all about the social media winning the moment. Right now, Klay feels like he's being put out to pasture. He's looking at Draymond money, Jordan Poole money, Andrew Wiggins money and saying, well, you did that for them. What about me? Well, here's the question. Was Klay Thompson the second most important Warrior in the dynasty? Because I would argue he was not. I would argue Draymond Green was the second most important player in that dynasty. So they took care of Draymond. They paid him the money. They have all these antics. And if any of this stuff about Klay is true, look, you just need to move on. It's messy. It's a divorce, whatever. I don't respect what the Warriors did, leaking that stuff about him. If they did, I don't respect Klay for being all in his feelings and unfollowing the Warriors and all that stuff that he did.
You don't respect him for that?
No, I don't.
I mean,
it doesn't need.
It's life. It's personal stuff, man. Stuff happens.
So you can do personal stuff in your life. I don't have to respect you for it.
I mean, it's not like he disrespected anybody. It's just there's beef. Like we just had beef on this show. Like there's beef. People have falling out.
You're wearing a hat. Do I have to respect your hat? It's a personal choice.
Nothing to do with anything.
I don't know if that's the best analogy.
No, like
we're allowed to have an opinion. I could respect the move. Like people had all this.
I'm saying, but you're also allowed to comment on other people's opinions. So I think it's if people are saying they don't respect Klay for, I think when you've been in a relationship with somebody for this many years, for 10+ years, it's bound. Like it's bound that you're gonna have conflict. And I think with Draymond too,
this
like
it's bigger than him. Okay, you are ruining something pure.
Ruining pure.
First of all,
have you?
Hold
on, I got a work call. Hold on, sorry.
I don't think that he's ruining anything. First and foremost, this Golden State Warriors, the quote unquote dynasty, it was over 2 years ago. They didn't, and Mars and I have had this conversation, they didn't capitalize on getting this roster better and their trade assets like they should have. When they won the NBA championship, that was the time to do that, but they didn't. Now, Klay, on the other hand, them moving on from him, this isn't him ruining it. This is Klay asking to be respected. And the fact that he doesn't feel like he's being respected, I'm going to step off of you guys. Because remember, we were poverty when I got here. Nobody cared about us. No, you guys couldn't care less about the Golden State Warriors. We didn't know who Steph Curry was. I knew about Klay Thompson because one of my buddies was an assistant basketball coach in college, and he told me about Klay Thompson. That was it. I didn't know what he was going to be. I didn't know he was going to be this good as a player. And now he turns into that and turns this Golden State Warriors franchise into a viable franchise where people actually care about them, as opposed to years before, nobody wanted to play there. Nobody of any value wanted to go there. And now we are in a situation where we got banners hanging up, right? Not only do we have banners hanging up, we got rings, and you guys got paid a lot off of us, and you paid us handsomely. 100% you did that. But on my way out, should I not value myself as one of the guys who helped build this thing? Should I not value myself as one of those guys? Absolutely, I should, and I will.
I think this all also goes back to how a lot of fans tend to get upset when players leave or they feel like they're being selfish, leaving an organization. You got to understand that the team is going to do what's best for them every time. Klay Thompson was valuable to them when he was fully healthy, winning championships. Even when they gave him the deal after he had the injury situation, they thought he could come back. Right, we've seen players come back from ACL injuries, Achilles injuries, things of that nature with modern science. So they thought he would come back. But now that they've seen, the type of player he is, they just thought it wasn't worth it. And teams are going to do that. Teams will ship you out. They'll let you go. And Klay Thompson made the best decision for himself. He thinks he's in a better situation in Dallas where maybe he'll feel more respected. The money thing is a factor too, without a doubt. But once again, we have to realize that teams will always do what's best for them, no matter what you've done for them in the past, or not for them all the time. Every single time. Every single time they'll do what's best for them. I know it's
paying Klay Thompson $48 million for 2 years is not what's best for the Warriors.
No, honestly.
Whoa! Stop right there.
$25 million a season would have been
$25 million a year for Klay Thompson right now. That's
for 2 years for a 2-year deal.
Okay, we're obviously not winning. All right. Okay, we're obviously not serious about winning. However, we're keeping the band together. Last I checked, who had the most games on TV last year?
Lakers, I believe.
The Warriors were in the top 5.
100. One more time, Moss, for the people in the back.
The Warriors were 1,000%.
Find me a person who's not going to tune into the Warriors because Klay's not there.
Oh, I'm 100% confident they're not.
Michael Thompson, there you go. Cooked. Michael Thompson.
They're not going to be nearly as popular without him. So the $24 million that they would have been paying him, they would have made that back because the band is still together. Okay, sure, they ain't serious about winning no more because it's obvious that they're going the other way in terms of talent, in terms of health. They're going the other way. But if we keeping the band together, just off name alone, we're going to be on TV. We're going to fill arenas because people care about these 3 guys.
And we're going to be in the lottery. And we're going to be in the lottery.
I mean, they
we
just
can't
missed
compete.
playoffs.
Well, they were in the lottery.
So at what point does it become fun to watch the Warriors lose by 30 points on national television? At what point is that fun?
Wait, how bad do you think the Warriors are going to be?
If you're preying on their downfalls, man.
I'm not preying on shit. What I'm trying to say is, if you're the side chick, know you're the side chick, and know if you're the main chick, bro. Like to me,
he doesn't. Do you think he thinks he's the main attraction,
bro? I think he thinks it's the Beatles.
I think Draymond also thinks that he's more important than what he is. That's why he keep punching people, stepping on people's chest.
Draymond
Steph is literally screaming. Steph is literally screaming, crying.
Shengün never react to me like that, but
go down in the house. It's my man right here. I love this dude. This is my man right here.
Yeah, because Penn is like so off on this, it is actually kind of jarring.
I've been seeing you disagreeing with him for 2 hours.
I was gonna say
2 hours is crazy.
You were disagreeing on him on the Paul George Maxey thing. I seen you was in the chat. Now you in the chat.
No, I know. I disagree with him on the multiple. What you call it? You just pay Klay if you don't have another option. They just let go of Klay for nothing. They let go of Chris Paul for nothing.
That's crazy. How'd they let him go for nothing? They got D'Anthony Melton. That's not nothing.
They didn't get D'Anthony Melton
trash.
D'Anthony Melton wasn't a part of the deal. No,
that's not the point. The point is, what did you get back for Klay Thompson? I mean,
nothing.
2 second-round
picks. 2 second-round picks. And I guess the financial ability to get.
But you offered him 248. So what are you saying? You gotta go into luxury tax hell for multiple years. You got to be an apron team in order to satisfy Klay's ego. that you got to pay him 3 years or 4 years. You got to give
that because he's a part of the process to why that organization is worth billions of dollars now.
I don't know if you know that, Penn, but
the owner's been the real winner. Yeah,
that's it. I don't know.
They were dumpster fire before
they
he got
paid him a lot of money. He has not been worth what he's been paid for 4 years. 4 years.
The organization.
If you want an honest opinion here, his last contract was 141 million. I don't like pocket watching, I don't like counting people's paper, but he hadn't earned 50 million of that money.
We've been doing it all episodes.
How do you measure that though? Could we just start talking about market
warp?
No. Well, you spoke to us about market value earlier. You don't think Klay Thompson has earned the Golden State Warriors that contract,
bro?
You brought it up. You brought it up earlier.
You did bring that up.
I completely understand the concept.
Did he?
He did.
I completely understand the
concept. Answer the question directly, lawyer. Did he or did he not earn them that and based on market value outside of games played? Did he earn them the culmination of that contract?
That's a yes or no question, Penn.
Merchandise, jersey sales, TV revenue, all of it.
The last 4 years?
Yes,
probably.
Yes or no question.
Because of how this shit is scaled.
Probably. Okay.
Hold on, but this is a rigged game. Michael Jordan earned the Chicago Bulls a lot more money than they ever paid him. That is not the point here. You're not going to say, "Oh,
you just made that point like 20 minutes ago."
The point that I am making is on-court production. $141 million. Make it make sense. Now you got to sign up for another four. Like, what are we doing here? Who was the second best player on the Warriors the last time they won the championship? Who was the third? Who was the fourth? I'll wait until you get to Klay Thompson. Okay. Now, no disrespect. Klay Thompson has
those games. Draymond didn't close some of those games. So was he less valuable to that team?
Draymond has always been more valuable than Klay Thompson. At every step, Draymond has been more valuable than Klay Thompson.
Was Wiggins more valuable now?
Yes. Wiggins was more valuable in that playoff series than Klay Thompson.
That entire playoff?
Yeah, I guess so. But
I'm not mad at that.
He was great.
And
that shows you what I'm talking about, because honestly, Klay in his prime is way better than whatever Wiggins was in that playoff series. What I'm trying to tell you is, bro, this is the Steph Curry show. Okay. Steph Curry is the person that kids are trying to emulate. And you can say Klay was a big part of that. You can say he's a huge part of that. You can say, there's a lot of guys who have been part of this story. I don't like this notion of it's a tandem. It's 100%. It's a tandem for marketing purposes. It's a tandem.
So Steph Curry, when he misses the playoffs altogether, is it?
What?
I don't understand how that works. So if Steph misses the playoffs altogether, his team isn't good enough. He needs more. But when he wins the championship, he's the lead dog. It's all about him, and he gets all the credit for it. I don't understand. That doesn't work for me. Because that's not how basketball works. Steph needs Klay. Matter of fact, has Steph ever made the playoffs without Klay Thompson being next to him? That's what I'm trying to understand.
No.
That's a really bad argument.
I'm legit. They're a team.
How many years has Steph played without Klay?
09, 10, 10, 11,
and then
9 20 for 5 games,
right?
And 2021.
Okay,
right.
Cool. 3.
Yeah. So find me
healthy.
a team. Find me a team that's not worse without a $40 million player. Yeah. But you're not going to make.
You're arguing a $40 million player isn't as good as Wiggins. What you are arguing that right now? You are literally arguing the $40 million player wasn't as good as whatever Wiggins was getting paid.
Andrew Wiggins is 28 years old. When he was paid. When Andrew Wiggins was paid, he was coming off a finals run in which he was your second best player. Very debatable, not really debatable. Second best player, and he was 26 years old and he got paid $100 million. You want the same money as that guy at 35 years old or 34 years old?
Yeah, because I provided the value to this organization way more than Andrew Wiggins. Yes.
Fair. Yeah, absolutely. And you've been paid way more than Andrew Wiggins, and you're respected more than Andrew Wiggins. And by the way, Andrew Wiggins was just pulled out of the Canada Olympic team because they don't have that relationship with him. They don't give a shit about Andrew Wiggins. They don't care about burning that bridge.
Well, two things, Penn. Number one, let's stop talking about Klay. Like Klay, okay, he didn't earn that contract. When prior to him tearing up his knee, he was an all-league defender. He was an all-star. So he did earn that contract.
Like one.
Right, and he did earn that contract, and he got hurt on the job. Also, the Golden State Warriors in 22, this is on them because this was their opportunity to get off of him at that time when they won the NBA championship, because his value at that time was at its highest, only except they didn't. They want to run it back. And with them running it back, they start going the other way. Of course, the Golden State Warriors are still one of the top 5 teams in the league in terms of attendance, being on TV as much as they are. So they're definitely a draw. Klay knows that. And the fact that Klay knows that, that's why he's looking at the Golden State Warriors as he's one of their legacy guys. Because nobody's paying attention to us if I ain't on the crew. Nobody ain't paying attention to us if Steph ain't on the crew. Nobody's paying attention to us if Draymond's not on the crew. So that's a valid for him to feel that way. And if he doesn't,
is Klay Thompson better than Contavious Caldwell-Pope right now?
It's not about
Be for real.
But you're missing the point, because again, the bigger picture here is because Klay even had to tell. There's reports saying that Klay even had to tell Curry not to go influence them. That he wanted to figure out what they were going to do on his own. So now there's a possibility that if you didn't get Klay, you didn't get Paul George because you didn't want to trade Kuminga because that was also broken. And if you don't effectively get Lauri Markkanen, now both Draymond and Curry might not even finish a career there, because now they're like, I don't want to be here because what's the point of me competing? So now you effectively just try to have I'm trying to play calculation with taxes that I'm already benefiting from, because when they purchased the team back in 2010, it was $450 or $400 million. The team is now worth $8 billion. Please spare me with the amount of money that
none of this
saving.
makes any difference in the new CBA, bro. It's not about the money. It's not just about the money, bro. In the old CBA, they would have given him his 4 years.
So if it wasn't about the money, then why didn't they pay him?
Because they're willing to pay him. They're not willing to pay him for 4 years, because in 4 years, you're going to be a charitable organization. You're going to be dude, remember that thing that I told you?
They were a charitable organization when they bought them.
I understand.
Oh my Lord. Remember what I was saying earlier about the 3 years out of 5 years, you can't be there, or your picks get frozen, whatever, right? You have to start thinking about the post Steph Curry era. And believe you me, it is coming.
Yes, it is.
And at that point, because you messed up on all these draft picks, and Jonathan Kuminga ain't about to become a franchise player anytime soon. Per my estimation, Moses Moody is going to be at best a role player. Brandon Pajimski and Trace Jackson Davis might be something, but they're still going to be role players. I don't see a star on this team to carry, Steph into the moon, into the sunset. So I'm at a point right now as an organization. I have to look at the cap implications. Yes, the luxury bill. They've never shied away from it. They've never cared. If I'm a player like Kevin Durant, if I'm a player like Kobe Bryant, if I'm a player like LeBron James, I'm looking at organizations and I'm thinking, God, I wish I had Joe Lacob, who is willing to spend so much money into the cap to give me a chance every year to win a championship. The Warriors are the ultimate take 10 shots and make 4 of them count, type of team. Klay benefited from that. I'm sick and tired of hearing like he did them a favor. He didn't do them a favor, okay? There was a partnership. It's a two-way street. It's a two-way. They didn't do him a favor. He didn't do them a favor. He made them a lot of money. They made him a lot of money. That's the partnership. You can argue the partnership is rigged because the owners will always make more than the players because they have the valuation of the Golden State Warriors are worth so much. But I'll argue this. The Golden State Warriors are worth what they're worth because of the championships. And those championships were not won by Klay alone. I would argue they
weren't won by Steph alone either.
Okay, but Steph Curry was at worst.
They're all they're all a big part of it, though.
They're all of a part of it.
Why are we separating?
The marketing behind the Warriors dynasty and everything, we think Steph and Klay because those two are bunched together. But I'm trying to tell you here, it's not worth handicapping your organization for a decade for sentimentality.
Would it be? Because Penn,
it's not a decade, though.
Well,
Penn, it is a decade.
Penn, you were talking about the 4 years.
It's not.
That 2 years at $48 million. Right, that 2 years at $48 million. If we went to 3 years at 60, and this is just 3 years at 60,
how do we know he's going to be okay with that? How do we know he didn't want 4 years?
Because he took less money to go to Dallas. That's why.
My only comment said that he thought that Klay Thompson being in his feelings about that was weak or whatever. I just think that this is business and it's 15 years of life. Like you're gonna have feelings that come out,
bro. Like I think when you left the stage, what we were talking about was is it like it's disrupting something pure? Look, man, I'm not.
I don't care. I think he can do whatever he want to do.
Bro, there are people. I'm gonna put it this way. There are people who trash the home that they are being evicted from on the last day. There are those types of people, and then there are those people who sweep up after themselves.
You think that's what's going on with Klay? You think Klay is breaking windows and punching holes in the wall on his way out? You think he's doing that?
I'm looking at this and saying, why do this way? Why make it this way?
Let me tell you why. I'll tell you why.
Do though,
and let's just say for the sake of argument, that's true. Let's say for the sake of argument, he is punching holes in the wall. Let's say for the sake of argument, he's breaking windows and snatching the blinds off the window. I want you to remember something that you completely forget to bring up. The Splash Brothers. This whole thing was built on them. We don't know who Draymond Green is. We have no idea who Draymond Green is. In fact, Draymond Green becomes who Draymond Green is because David Lee gets hurt. That's what that happened. That's when that happens. Up until that point, we don't know who Draymond Green is. Mark Jackson is telling us that this is the best shooting backcourt in NBA history. So this unit is built on that. It's an extension of what the 7 seconds or less. So Klay is looking at this like we were a poverty franchise. We weren't doing much before me and Steph got here. And I, as one of the better players in this organization, as a legacy player, I should be treated better than what I'm treated. And please don't tell me, Penn, that they paid him $190 million. They paid him based on what he did previous to that. They paid him not because he was hurt. He got hurt with a torn ACL in the NBA Finals. And he was playing at an all-star level. He was at an all-league defender level when he was playing like that. And he's looking at this like I should be compensated for everything else that I did.
I get all of that. I'm saying I think this is a partnership. And if the only way that I can show you that you're worth something to me is to hurt my ability for the next 10 years, and yes, it is 10 years. Because if you are an apron team, if you're a second apron team for 3 of those years, that 4th year when Klay Thompson and Steph Curry retire, you don't get to keep your draft pick. It goes to the end of the first round.
I'm sorry, I don't
care.
But
bro, you don't run an NBA franchise, and for fucking good reason. It's a good reason you don't run an NBA franchise, because you would run it right into the ground. This limited vision, man. You came in here all this energy about like, oh, you wrong about everything, bro. Like we're not doing this right now.
I'm not saying I understand your point, but the point of your arguing, you can't sit here and argue the market value of someone 20 minutes ago and then not understand the market value of Klay Thompson, a part of an organization that went from $450 million to $8 billion within a 10-year period.
Relative to what? You're acting like this is an isolated incident. This is not an isolated incident, okay? The Golden State Warriors won a lot of championships, won a lot of games, but there are other teams that have also gone up exponentially over that.
Not at their level.
Not at that level. But they're also a joke franchise.
You're being disingenuous.
I'm not being disingenuous. You're being a historical revisionist right now. You're revising history.
They are the second highest value team in America. They're more than the Lakers, more than the Yankees, more than the Knicks. That's how much value they went up. They're more than legacy organizations and franchises.
They paid for that. They paid for that. Who had the highest luxury? They paid for that with luxury tax, bro. You're acting like
over the past 7 years, I think the luxury tax they paid was only like $1 billion. Not
only
to the tune
$1 billion.
Of the other $7 billion. Not
compared
the other $7 billion.
Find me another team in the league that paid $500 million at the same point. You're saying only $1 billion.
The Clippers.
The Clippers had paid $500 million in luxury tax.
The Clippers and the Warriors over the last 5 years have effectively played nearly the exact same amount in luxury tax, and they are not up that much. No.
And have the Clippers and have the Clippers.
Stop, bro. They went up $8 billion. They're an $8 billion team now. What are you talking about?
So you think that because they're an $8 billion team, that they should pay Klay for 4 years instead of the 2 years because to what? To satisfy his ego? Because
to satisfy the need of what that organization has built over the course of his career as well as Steph.
But why do I have to hurt myself to prove that you're meaningful to me?
You're not hurting your. This is the thing.
This is hurting themselves. They're giving themselves a limited amount of flexibility.
This is the concept of like when you have ownership, you're not hurting yourself because every single year you gain an equity. Your equity in the entity that you own is what's gaining you value. So if you believe you're hurting yourself because you have to lose a draft pick, even though I just went up 20 times as much money as I put into the organization, that's not really hurting yourself. You just went up 20 times.
And by the way, Penn, like he just said, in terms of equity. So in 2 years or in 3 years, this Golden State Warriors team, which is worth, as of today, let's say they're worth $7 billion. In 2 or 3 more years, they're worth $10 billion. $400 million to $10 billion. What are we doing? And you worried about $48 million?
I'm not worried about $48 million, and that's where you're twisting my argument into something.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding you. I don't want to twist your words. No, I don't want to do that. I want to make sure I'm
It's
understanding.
not about 48 million. It's not about 48 million. It's not about any of that. It's about what valuation is not one way. Okay, companies fall, valuation falls. Okay,
sure.
You're acting like, oh, they're going to be a $10 billion franchise without Steph, without Klay, without Draymond. What are they going to be? 2-3 bad years and going back to laughing stock. Yo, you're not going to be a $5 billion franchise anymore. This valuation only locks in when you sell. Right now, it's just an asset you hold.
Just so you know, the average NBA team is worth $3.5 billion, just on average.
Great.
That's the average.
And part of the Warriors' value right now is Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, being on their team.
Which we know they're not going to be there forever.
Value.
We know that.
Right. Exactly. But you're going to have to extend that value forward. You're not quite the Lakers. You're not quite the Lakers. You're not the Knicks. You're not the Celtics. You didn't quite do that. Okay. So this is not, it's a pretty big market. It's not the biggest market. So I'm just at a point right now where I'm like, look, you take care of the guy. I get it. But be real about what he was to you as well, right? He has not been the player that he was for the last 4 years. That's 2 years injury, 2 years since recovering injuries. That's 4 years. We're not talking about, he had a bad year and they penalized him. We're not talking about, he had 2 bad years. This is 4 years. He's 35 years old. There's a lot of factors that could have swung this his way. If he was willing to take a little less money for a longer period of time, maybe add a team option on that 3rd year, play ball at least. But no, I think what came up was ego. And that's what I've sensed from Klay the entire time. It's pride and ego. It burns you both ways. When you're young, it's great because you got to believe you're great to get to this level. But at some point, you must fall back. You must accept your grander place in all of this, because the truth is the machine doesn't work when one person puts themselves above it. When like Draymond Green, like you consider what? Like Draymond? Yeah, sure. Like Draymond, like Ron Artest, ruining, I believe, the best chance for, the Indiana Pacers potentially, someone threw something
out of that ego.
I wouldn't quite call that the same thing.
It wasn't ego, but it was in that moment of Ben Wallace and Ron Artest, like that.
He chose himself
over championship potentially, right?
Sure.
So I'm saying, like, you
some
get
white
to
guy
a
throws a
point
beer
now.
on you from the stand. That's kind of.
Pardon?
Some white guy throws a beer on you from the stands.
I completely understand that, but I'm saying, like, that is what screws up like 5 years, right?
My only follow-up question is, if they get Paul George, do you think that immediately makes him a title contending team?
Paul George in
Warriors.
Golden State.
Warriors?
No, right now.
They trade Kuminga and Andrew Wiggins for him. Like
Paul George put them over the hump.
Who's reporting that, and where do we know?
No.
That was the trade. No, they absolutely were trying to trade Paul George. The Warriors did not include Jonathan Kuminga in the deal, so therefore the deal fell through. But had they acquired Paul George, by the way, for a 4-year, $208 million contract,
yes.
If they would have added that, they would be a clear second apron team. Clearly. So with that being said, Paul George, Pods, Steph, Dre, Trace Jackson Davis, and a Moses Moody and whatever, that would have put him in the second apron. Would you have also maintained that same mentality in that situation?
Yes.
It would have ruined the fourth decade.
Because once again, it would have put you into the second apron for the 3 years plus, and then you lose your draft picks, and then you have all the penalties, and you have nothing to rebuild, and you are a bare bones franchise building around Brandon Pajimski and Trace Jackson Davis in 5 years, because you've already given off a lot of picks right now. If you're going to be good, you're not going to draft high. If you're going to be capped out, you don't have roster flexibility. Do you want to be the Phoenix Suns? Is really the question every team should be asking. This is the disaster case scenario. You have nothing. You have no draft picks. You have no incentives. You have no flexibility. You are capped out. Matt Ishbia is the ultimate throw money at it and make it go away guy. He is going to face the consequences if that Bradley Beal contract continues to be on their books 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. At some point, do you want to be in a position as the Phoenix Suns where just to get out of this hell, you're going to have to trade Devin Booker? Because that's your way out.
The more and more news come out. Originally, I was on your side, but the more and more news come out, the more and more it's like, well, it's not really them trying to duck the tax bill because they were willing to pay it for Paul George. So like I hear what you're saying, but there's more and more news saying that, we want, because originally I thought the same thing. We're not going to give you that contract because we want flexibility. but we're willing to give it to Paul George and the 4 years on top of that. So the flexibility argument kind of goes out the way because they were trying to do that for PG.
For more money,
and for more money. And so all I'm saying is
help them win.
And but I don't think any of us. Okay.
No, we don't have to agree, but their mindset is.
Oh, yeah, and that may be fine. And so the point I'm making is that at the end of the day, the result of you failing to get Paul George because you didn't want to put Kuminga in a deal, and effectively you losing Klay Thompson and Chris Paul $75 million of assets you were juggling the past year now. You got that for nothing. You're about to walk moving forward with nothing. That is a worst case scenario. So if you're asking me in 2 or 3 years now, do I lose a draft pick or do I end up where we are right now? I would, without a doubt, keep Klay and just lose a draft pick, without a doubt.
But it's not just any draft pick. You're losing a top 5 pick potentially when you're really bad and all your stars have retired. Do you remember the Bulls after Michael Jordan and do you remember those 5 years?
They were garbage.
Yeah,
they were so bad.
But that's 1 year though.
Bro,
one pick. It's one pick, right? It just drops from whatever it is to 30, right?
It's that pick becomes the entire focus of your entire organization.
But
that's your Cade Cunningham in Detroit pick. That's your,
it could be your James Wiseman.
Or it could be,
He just signed to the Pacers, by the way.
Who just signed to the Pacers?
In Indiana,
Shout out to Wiseman. I understand what you're saying about wanting to make sure you keep your one draft pick asset valuable later on down the line, but the one draft pick asset, I highly doubt will ever reach the tune of the heights of marketability value than even teetering at the end of his career, Klay Thompson staying with the Golden State Warriors.
I want people to keep it real. Where was the NBA media when Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce got traded? Where were they when those guys got traded to Brooklyn? Oh, Brooklyn fleeced. Celtics are stupid. They're tearing up a dynasty. It's so dumb. Blah blah blah. How can you trade big ticket? Okay, well, who won that trade?
They got something for it though.
Yes, they did. But you also don't realize that when you don't sign a Klay Thompson to $25 million a year, you are also getting something. You are getting flexibility. It's not as easy to see as a first round pick, but you are putting something into the spot that he was occupying. You are also giving more minutes for Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody. At some point, you're going to need to do that. You can keep him as a figurehead, as whatever. You can honor him later. Okay. But right now, look, man, the Toronto Raptors moved off of Kyle Lowry when he hit 35. And he wasn't worth that contract either. The Raptors intelligently navigated it. They signed and traded him to Miami. And guess what? Miami Heat, they didn't get positive equity on that contract. Players
Kyle Lowry,
very bad
when they went to the finals.
No, when
the Raptors moved off of him.
Raptors moved off of him, right? They moved off of him. They signed and traded him to Miami because he wanted $30 million. He still was a good player, but they saw the decline. They moved off of him. He's a franchise legend. He's going to get a statue. He's the quote unquote the greatest Raptor of all. Okay, you can say that, but I'm saying that in Toronto, he's going to get.
I'm going to try. Yeah, I'm not giving a statue. Hell no.
Jalen, are you Canadian?
You're not building the statue. It's up to you.
I'm just saying.
You're not building the statue.
Yeah.
He already had that little makeshift statue that they brought around. Trust me, when he retires, they will put his jersey in the
Lowry statue
first.
Yeah.
I know it sounds crazy, but it means a lot to an underdog city, bro.
Oh, I do need to say something. Agree.
Big backside on that.
Chill. Did you hear Lo? He said, "Chill." Did you hear Lo? He said this can be the first BBL statue in sports history. That's what he said.
That's what I was laughing at.
That's crazy.
I understand Penn saying, but they also didn't get anything for Klay. Like the Nets got. I mean, the Celtics.
That's what I'm saying. They did, though. You got
to. You got two twos that you don't care about, Penn.
I think
I'm trying to get something tangible. So
they're getting flexibility.
I'm trying to get on
5 years down the line when they haven't lost their first round pick. That's what they got from getting off of Klay.
Yeah, but okay. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. They could have gotten the first. This is another thing. They could have got a first round pick even from the Lakers this time, and they declined that offer. So, like, if you think that it's a difference of a pick, they could have got a pick for Klay, and they still said no to that. That's my whole problem is that they got they got 2 second rounders. They had the D'Angelo Russell in a pick trade from the Lakers. They didn't want that. Or you could even flip D'Lo for even more draft assets, and they didn't did that. They then had another trade potentially for what's his name, and they didn't want to lose Kuminga, so you didn't do that. there's so many other things that he just did not do that led down to the path of, well, we got second rounders and flexibility to keep our draft pick 3 or 4 years down the line.
I'm not at a place where
we have to move on.
Yeah,
I know we do.
Yeah.
Really quickly, Moss. And Penn, if we do pay him, let's say we pay him that $48 million over the next 2 years. And Klay, for some reason, we have a stretch. This thing isn't working, right? This thing in Golden State isn't working, and they're not very good. But Klay actually looks really good as a shooter. We may be able to trick somebody into giving us a 1 for him. We may be able to do that because we've seen that in the past where teams have given away guys and they've gotten back draft picks or they've gotten back something where you're like, damn, I can't believe that they did that. But in the process of them doing that, they do pay him. So I don't think that with paying him, that would have just been the end all be all. We could have possibly ended up getting our draft pick back, because I think that's what your stance is, losing that draft pick and that equity moving forward. I don't think
I think at $25 million, you have to look at the maneuverability of a contract.
Mhm.
Going into age 35 with his injury history, there are disaster case scenarios where he has an injury this summer and he's not healthy for the entire 4 years. There's disaster case situations where there's a fall off and a regression that continues a trend of 3 years in a row of fall off and regression, where he's not really an NBA rotation player in year 2 of that contract. That's massive downside risk.
I don't think he drops off that much.
That's a glass half empty mentality.
You got to look at every
possibility. You have to.
You can think that all you want, but the
100%
history of players like him, it's not even like him. It's not an archetype. Players after 35, go look at their production.
They go the other
Okay.
way.
I remember the Raptors again. I'm sorry if people getting exhausted of me bringing up Raptors issues, but we got 2 panelists up here from Toronto, so that's pretty cool. Hakeem Olajuwon at the tail end of his career, right? Still looks serviceable, looked like a great idea, right? $18 million. How many years of that? $18 million the Raptors paid. The Raptors paid $18 million for that guy to play about 40 games. Scottie Pippen, 2003, right? Still look like Scottie Pippen. It's funny how we're coming full circle to exactly what Showtime was talking about in the beginning. They still look the same. They're not the same. Klay Thompson still looks like Klay Thompson. You're looking at Klay Thompson. You're going to see him in a presser. You're going to see him in a suit. You're going to see him in a Dallas Mavericks jersey. You'll be like, you should have kept this guy. He's not the same player. He's not even close to the same player.
Hakeem and Scottie Pippen, though, like when he went to the Raptors,
they were like 38.
Yeah, they were way below
38. He will be 38. He was never as good as those guys to begin with. He was not as good as he was not anywhere close to as good as Hakeem.
Klay Thompson's a lot more valuable right now, even next season than Hakeem Olajuwon was when he went to the Raptors. Hakeem going to the Raptors,
35-year-old Scottie Pippen was more valuable than 35-year-old.
Going to the Raptors was not just a basketball move; it was also the Raptors. Let's give some validity to our organization, get a big name here. That was the situation too with Hakeem. It wasn't just
they were looking for a center to put next to Vince, in my opinion, and a big man, because that was the mentality. But my point is,
Hakeem coming off of 11 points a game at Houston.
Sure. Fresh start, right? 3 years, whatever, market, whatever. But my point is, these contracts almost never age well. You want flexibility. If you give up dollars, you better not give up term. You better not give up both. That's the negotiation. Yeah. If Klay Thompson wants a 4-year deal, congratulations. Sign for $10 million a year or $12 million a year for 4 years. We'll give you your 4-year term. But if he wants to compete with the contracts that were given out before this CBA went into effect, then I think that's the breakdown between him and the Warriors, because you cannot negotiate from the past CBA and the current CBA. You just can't. They're operating under new rules. They have to think about preserving. Look, I think there's this concept of priorities in life, right? Someone asks you, Chilltown, what's your priorities? You might say 1, 2, 3 things. I don't think priorities exist. I think it's a priority. What's your priority? If you go and say Warriors, you're one thing. That's what it is. It's a thing that comes before all else. We're crazy in today's world where we say priorities. Oh, health is priority. My wife's my priority. Yo, take everything away. One thing comes first. That's priority. For some people, it's God. For some people, it's whatever. I'm saying for the Golden State Warriors, that priority is extending the championship window and contention window of Steph Curry. That's it. And so here, you may feel some way about Steph and Klay. You may feel some way about the branding of the Splash Brothers. But right now, if DeAnthony Melton at $12.9 million has a healthy season, and Klay Thompson at $18 million has a healthy season on the court, DeAnthony Melton helped you more.
All right, let's move on.
I don't think Melton. They're not winning a championship one way or another.
we got super chats. Natty2Swifty, he was a Warriors fan, but he says the Warriors are done. It's time he joins Homer's hashtag.
Yeah, they're not winning a championship. They're not contending.
Bandwagon is crazy. But we did. This is like this goes way back to like how does Klay view himself? King Dragon with the $25 super chat. He said, ideally, Klay comes off the bench to have a combo of Luka Klay, Kai Luka, Kai Klay on the floor at all times. Then having duos from PJ, Grimes, Najee, Maxey out there with Gafford and Lively rotating the center position. What do you guys think? Excluding small ball, obviously. So basically trying to keep defense on the court.
I think Klay is starting 100%.
Who's a three? I'm about to say who starts at the three.
I think Klay is a 3.
Should it be Najee? I don't know, but Klay's going to start.
I think Klay's a 3, yeah.
Who's
Klay's
their
a
biggest
3.
wing right now? Is it
PJ
Najee?
Wash?
PJ's their biggest wing.
PJ Wash.
Well, PJ, but
He'll
I'm
be the
saying
4.
PJ
He'll be the 4.
Yeah,
PJ
he's
is
just
a
a 4.
though. He's saying who's going to be the 3? Who's the biggest player?
Najee. Yeah, Najee Marshall. Yeah.
He's a really good player.
He
Yeah, he's
is 100%.
I tell y'all though, the thing that they're going to lose though, DJJ's offensive rebounding, like that's going to be a loss for them on some of those crunch possessions. So it's going to be interesting how they figure that out. He added a lot to their roster.
He did.
Yeah. DK still staying with the Mavs. He said he's happy with the 2, 3 and D additions in Grimes and Najee, plus Klay as a third scorer. Would like a Maxey for Dorian Finney-Smith trade as he fits 3 positions and played the 5 half of last season when Clax was out, so he fits the Maxey role. Bringing back Dorian Finney-Smith for Dallas. How do you guys feel about that?
That'd be great for them. That would be
Coming up the bench? Yeah, I don't mind that.
Yeah,
Or-
of course, coming up.
or closing a time.
So that means so that means Exum or Green, one of those two guys.
Well,
are
Green's
Green's
already in
already gone.
Charlotte. Green's in Charlotte.
Okay, so Green's already gone. How did I miss that?
He's saying Maxey.
That's the sign and trade with Klay. Green went to Charlotte. Second round picks went to Golden State, and Klay.
That's
went
a
to
loss.
Dallas.
Josh
okay.
Green, good player.
I just
Yeah.
think with
He
with
100%
Kyrie,
is, and yes, he
Good
is.
energy. Yeah, good
with
energy.
Kyrie, Luka, and Klay, I think so much of the defense is going to come down to Derek Lively. I just think they're going to be blown by
He's amazing.
so
too.
often. Yeah, Derek Lively is his role on defense is gonna be ridiculous.
That's
It's
not
offense.
Klay.
It's offense too. We're gonna see a shot from him. We're seeing
A
like
jump shot.
Well, he
Point-
was shooting in
point-
high school.
point,
he was
point
shooting.
lively, bro. It's coming up. Point lively, short
I
roll
don't know about
passing.
playing, but yeah.
Point.
I don't know,
point
Mars.
lively.
I didn't know. I didn't know he was that good in a short role. To be honest with you, as a playmaker, I did not know that. So when I saw him
He's
at
a
Duke,
smart guy. Yeah, he's a smart
when
guy.
I saw him at Duke, he looked more like a project. I didn't
Mhm.
see him his
Oh,
ability to
that's why I
play
thought,
make.
yeah, that's why.
I didn't see his ability to play make in a short role and dive to the basket like that. Now that might be a product because Luka is making you look a lot better than that. But with that being said, he looks like he's like a bigger upside than what I thought. Maybe he can add a 14, 15 footer to his game. And if
He
he
already
can
got
do
it.
that, if he can do that, man, I mean,
Bro,
the
he got a
possibilities are
3.
even
I
more
watched
than
I
that.
watched some of his high school tape. He's shooting threes and that. Like it's
He was
real.
like-
Yeah, he was shooting in high school. He just didn't.
He
shoot.
was-
Like,
yeah.
I
The Duke
had to
system
do a
allowed
double
him to
take.
shoot.
I had to do a double take, either a crossover, step back 3. I was like, what? This guy, Duke guy,
You
it's
see
crazy.
some of the people what they were doing in high school. It's interesting, but yeah, there is potential there. He's got a soft touch on his jumper. It needs to be a better free throw shooter first though. But NP13 with a $20 super chat. He said, "I understand you need some self delusion to be a pro, but at what point does Klay have to actually realize his position ability wise? I don't understand him being insulted about the Warriors offering PG and Max and not him." You guys
I
think
do think there's a bit of a disconnect with look. Do I think Klay thinks he's probably better than he is? Sure, but I think the general public thinks he's worse than he is. Klay is not some like $5 million a player scrub. He can still give you
he's
15
11
a
million.
night, 15 to 20 a night. I think he might be closer to 20. just
Without
based
the
on his
resume,
every-
without
was
the
thinking
resume,
same.
without the resume,
Yeah, without the
without-
just as a player. I mean, as a player though, he's still good 3-point shooter, right? Which is super valuable.
Very good 3-point shooter. Very good.
Yeah, very good
Elite
3-point shooter. Still valuable, right? Obviously, defensively, he's not what he used to be, without a doubt. Can't really create his own shot. But I still think, again, that 3-point shooting, his ability to still score. I mean, he's still valuable.
we haven't really
How much?
talked
How
about
much? How much
how
would
he
you pay
fits
Luke
away.
Kennard? How much would you pay Luke Kennard?
well, Luke Kennard is a shooter. So shooters,
Probably closer to 10,
shoot-
8 to 10.
I was thinking like 12 is as far as I'm going with him. I
But
wouldn't
again,
go past 12.
Based on today's market, I mean,
How I mean, but say how far from like Duncan Robinson you think Klay is?
Yeah,
Offensively,
I feel like Klay's still better.
I think offensively, I think Duncan Robinson is less detrimental to my offense.
Wait a minute, Lo.
Really?
That question is a really general question. How far away is Klay Thompson?
I just said it just based off
Robinson?
of how much.
How much is Duncan making?
Yeah.
18?
18.
Miami's paying him, and Miami's paying him.
I think.
and
Well,
then-
Duncan was viewed as overpay, but I think he's swayed.
Now,
people.
now, as a shooter,
I think 18 is because I don't think you can just
that's
ignore
overpaying.
what Klay's done. I don't think you can just ignore what Klay's done. It's like it's easy to say remove everything, just think about this player, but like these guys are also human. And I know ownerships and the players and the agents, they're not going into the say remove everything this player's done. Like they are human. They can remember what Klay was 5 years ago. Whether or not it's fair, probably not. But they view it that way. That's just how humans
It
are.
does- only reason why you-
matter.
But
I
I
think,
think
who he is
17
matters.
to 19 is
But
fine.
the only reason why I said Duncan is because Duncan is younger, so it's not like he has that factor that you're referring to. Like, how far do you think? Like, he's from? How far do you think Klay is from Duncan, Grayson Allen, Bogdanovich, Mogi?
well,
I think he's. I think he's
Max
with. I
Strus.
think he's with them.
Those
in the
guys,
range,
those guys
yeah, he's
got
in that tier.
like you're
Don't-
talking about
don't-
very
don't
very
get-
different players.
I don't know. I'm
gonna
just
go
asking. I'm not saying they're the
Grayson
same
Allen,
player,
I'm gonna
just
go a
asking.
little
Yeah, but I mean, like,
further.
as what though? Like Klay Thompson
players.
in the Warriors system was coming off of like screens, and he's taking threes off the screens and coming off the dribble handoffs. Whereas you put him in a situation where you're not running that system anymore. You're not running motion. Like, I mean, you got the Mavericks. It's a very stagnant offense.
Mhm.
They're gonna have to change that for him if they want to maximize him. Because if you're just stand him in the corner, you're really minimizing some of the value of Klay Thompson. I do want to say though, shooting gravity is a really important thing that I don't think most people can wrap their head around. They say this guy's a 42% 3-point shooter. This guy's 37% 3-point shooter, and that 37% shooter is worse. Not necessarily. Maybe the 37% guy is doing it on high volume, and he's doing it on contested, and he's doing it in different types of doing it in different types of ways.
Right
So
now,
Klay Thompson is like panic attack. When I see Klay Thompson open in the corner and I'm his man, I'm closing out crazy, right? Because that's a sniper, and that psychological effect, the championship pedigree experience that he brings, all of that resume. You want to say like, oh, we got Klay Thompson on our team. Does that breed some belief, in you as a franchise? All of these things factor into the value that Klay brings
So
to his
how
next
much
station.
do you think he's costing? How much because you
He said 12.
quickly
He said
I
quickly put out like 10 to
12.
12.
Yeah, I said 12 in fair value, but honestly, yeah, like you can sell me on 15, you can sell me on 14, you can't sell me 20. So 12 to 14, because the regression on defense, everyone's been saying, oh, it's not the same player anymore defensively, but that's what we said about Paul George. The regression on Klay's defense and Paul George's defense is like night and day. Paul George is still a good defender. Klay Thompson is not a good defender. And that's what people don't register right now. He's not a good defender. He's not, he fell off from the all-league defender that he is. He's not a good defender right now. He just does not have the lateral ability right now.
I agree with what you're saying. Yeah.
First of all, Klay Thompson has never been like a generational defender to begin with. He had something that was great about him defensively. And frankly, as he's aged, he was going to lose most of that anyway. And that was quickness, burst, attention to detail. He's a very intelligent team defender. He just can't move that way anymore. He's too slow. So at 34, 35 years old, you're talking about Klay Thompson is a defensive liability right now. He's not a good defender. He's a defensive liability. You're putting him next to Luka Doncic, who is a defensive liability. You lost one of your best defenders in Derek Jones. You also lost one of your best defenders, in my opinion, Josh Green. Am I wrong about Josh Green being one of the best defenders? He's just super hustle, right?
For what? I think he not gonna do the Pat Bev thing where he's tricking you, but I do think a lot of it is just energy being thrown about.
But that energy is like, it's important, man. I think there was a
For sure.
game. There was a game. I think the one game they won in the finals, I think Josh Green was like arguably one of the 3 or 4 best players. He was crazy good that game. That's the one game they won. He was diving on loose balls. He was running in transition, hitting corner threes and stuff. He was a revelation for them. So, and he's a young player. And I think that has to matter, right? Like, we can agree that Paul George is not going to be worth the $58 million that you're paying him in year 4. But can we at least agree that Paul George is at least worth what he's paid next year? Yes.
What's the man paid next year?
46, 44, something like that. He's worth that.
I don't think
right?
I don't think that contract
46 isn't what it used to be. So yeah, I guess.
I mean, people got to get used to numbers today in the NBA.
Yeah, like 18 now. 18 now is really like what?
So,
12
but say for
You think Paul George is worth 46
next year? Yeah, I do. To what you have there. which is a championship window around one of the top 3 players in the NBA, and Joel Embiid. Yes, to you, he is worth it. As the Sixers, it's worth it to you.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at this and I'm like, okay, at what point does Klay become overpaid? If you had signed him to a 4-year, let's just say the Warriors had gone out and said, we're going to sign him to 4-year 80. Well, let's say the Lakers had
4 years 80, I think is closer to his price than Paul George's 4-year 222. I think 4 years 80 is more correct.
Sure. But even then, Paul George is starting so much higher. Paul George is just so much better than Klay Thompson right now because he has been relatively healthier. So what I'm saying is, at what point, if the Lakers had gotten Klay Thompson, at what point does 4 years 80 turn into, oh my God, he's overpaid by 200%? Could it happen as early as next year? It certainly could. In an ideal world, you go into a contract negotiation where both sides have an equivalent risk and an equivalent reward, which means that you give me 20, I might give you 30, I might give you 10, right? I might give you 30 value, I might give you 10. That's a fair value 20 to me, right? But when you go in and you give a guy 20 and there's no chance he's going to give you 20 and there's a chance he can give you 5, you take all the risk on that contract. And that, to me, those are the contracts that always backfire in the NBA.
I'm glad the Lakers didn't get Klay.
Yeah, well, we'll see who they get.
Well, what are they going to get in place of him?
Yeah, CED, member of Lakers Nation, said that they need DeRozan.
Oh.
No, they do not.
He said because Bron won 2 championships with D Wade, who wasn't a 3-point shooter, that Bron and DeRozan would fit like a glove.
Okay, first and foremost, this is a way different league.
Yeah, 2012 different time.
Low is the Lakers fan.
No, over a decade ago. No, the Lakers last year that was a big problem. They didn't shoot enough threes. I guess that was a value that Klay was supposed to provide. Yeah, and they gave up way too many of them. I think also DeMar is starting to understand his value in the league because apparently he's taking a 1-year deal to potentially get more money next year, but because there's not that many suitors out there for him. But DeMar doesn't provide enough value, especially on a team that is going to run LeBron and AD out there, and who knows what the other 2 positions are going to look like outside of Austin Reeves, especially because they're trying to move D'Lo. He doesn't provide enough value to that team. I don't think he provides a lot of value to a lot of teams in the NBA, and I think a lot of people aren't familiar with the idea that DeMar should probably just come off the bench for.
I think 6-man exactly. I think 6-man role would be optimal for DeMar. At this point.
That's really who he is at this point in his career. Yeah. But the idea that he's gonna is no, the Lakers should not.
You're not solving the Lakers' problems. Okay. Yeah.
Well, to Lowe's point, Lowe, if you think about in the Western Conference, like the Oklahoma City Thunder, what does he do for them? We already straight. How about Minnesota? We good. How about Denver? I think we straight with what we have, and I'm just thinking about playoff teams, right? I'm thinking about teams that are in contention or teams that are going deep into the playoffs, like the Knicks. Like, what does he do for them? Nothing. We already good with what we got, right? So teams like that, if he's going to get on a team where they're winning or they're trying to win, he's got to be in the rotation.
I like DeMar DeRozan, man. I think it's kind of.
I like him too, but I think
kind of wild.
What about him in Cleveland? What about him in Cleveland?
No, Jesus Christ.
That got a 2-guard.
No, if they put him at the 3,
there's something we got to understand. There's only one basketball in basketball. Right. They're not 5 basketballs or 4 basketballs where I can make it make sense, right? If DeMar DeRozan, I think, it's not disrespectful to say this because I think DeMar is still a really good player, and I think he's aged.
That was 24
very
games
well.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and he's pretty efficient, and he's even hitting 3-ball a little bit. He's trying on defense sometimes, right? But if he's the center of your offense, you're a lottery team. Fact. Right.
So, of course, yeah.
Mars, that is a fact. 100%.
For sure.
If we run into 0 through DeMar DeRozan.
I just laughed. I ain't disagree. I just laughed.
If we run into 0 through DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah. So I think that the best version of him will be a bench scorer, will be a bench utility, because he's evolved so much as a passer at this point that I think we spend so much time focusing on what DeMar DeRozan doesn't do that we don't really tell ourselves, whoa, this guy does some really elite stuff. He's a great shot maker. He's a great tough shot maker. He bails you out of late shot clock situations. He's a wonderful passer, and he's a great teammate. He is just a culture guy. He keeps guys together. So he's not someone who's going to be demanding touches, in my opinion. If he agrees to come off the bench, kind of like in that Ginobili role where he kind of comes in, he runs your offense a little bit, secondary first.
Like that, though.
Where I would love to see him? San Antonio. I would love to see him in San Antonio. Go link up, go, with Wemby. They can clean up all the defensive issues that you and, geriatric Chris Paul are going to have. And, 36 years old, 37 years old, DeMar, 39-year-old Chris Paul, Wemby cleaning up, probably like 85 blocks a game. It's going to be wonderful, man. That would be a movie. That would be cinema. I would love to see that. Plus, he respects the hell out of Greg Popovich. He's always talking about, how Pop cried with him after his father passed away. So that would be great. That would be a bit of a homecoming for him as well, because we all know that he kind of burned bridges on his first home. So second home, it's not too bad. But he said he was done with Chicago the minute they got Josh Giddey.
As he should. Smart man.
As he should. No,
Yeah,
actually, I think
he has a young daughter. He should be done with.
Smart man.
That's crazy.
If he's trying to, depending on what they want to do financially, but I actually think with the Knicks coming out the bench would make a lot of sense for him. But I don't know how much money
He would have to take a huge discount, yeah.
But he's saying he said he's willing to sign a 1-year deal this year just to open himself up next year. He said that.
A prove it deal?
Respect,
I don't know if it's a prove it deal. But.
Respect Steph. This is off topic, but we are just getting to the point where you guys are going to ask questions in Super Chat, so I'm going to answer them. He said, do you guys think Chet will move to the 4? Obviously now with Hartenstein being on the team. Yeah. And then where do they finish the season ranked? I'm assuming OKC.
I think they finished first in the West.
Number 1.
And they'll be first.
I think Chet's playing the 5 and Hartenstein's coming off the bench. I think, but
I'm not mad at that either.
I think so it's matchup based too. Certain teams, they'll have both out there.
In the playoffs, maybe Hartenstein could be in the starting lineup against certain teams, but I think for the most part, Chet's going to start. Yeah,
against Minnesota and Denver, probably both.
I think they two passing on Andre Drummond.
Can I just ask real quick who you guys got winning the championship? One word, like right now, if the season just started, who
OKC.
OKC for me too.
Yeah, probably OKC makes the most.
Oh, look at you, Boston haters, man! Look at you, Boston haters.
I have to be very optimistic on like J-Dub and Chet's. Not very, but you have to be optimistic about J-Dub's and Chet's progression.
Mm-hmm.
You got the Lakers?
No, actually, I think maybe Denver. Actually,
here we go.
I think
after losing KCP and Bruce Brown, that's tough.
Man, give me Philly.
Because I think Christian Brown is better than I think with a lot of people.
Yeah, he not KCP.
Also, I don't know if y'all seen Victor. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I'm scared. I'm not gonna lie.
I ain't gonna lie. I'm watching him practice with the French team right now. It's kind of cooked, man.
Yeah,
the league is cooked, man. Win your championships while you
I would love to root for Serbia or Canada in the. I'm kind of sneaky thinking France might put it together.
Yeah, I'm curious. I want to see how
France always has players that somehow overperform in the international stage, like the NBA guys.
They played together. For
that's what it is. Wow. Yeah, they just tend to play better in the international stage.
When we gonna win gold medal, it's gonna be his little Ginobili moment. He's gonna win gold medal.
It'd be great if it was over Joel Embiid, like Joel Embiid, and he stuffed Joel Embiid for the gold medal. That would be just brilliant. Given that nasty work.
If Joel can't win a gold medal, then yeah, maybe he's just not gonna win anything.
I'm at a point right now where I don't think Joel Embiid is ever going to win.
A resume of a gold medal.
See, you're a hater. That's cool.
I'm straight up a hater.
Like USA gold medal doesn't really even mean much in terms of.
Okay,
it really doesn't.
We got 6 minutes to go, so I can't even ask the question I wanted to ask. Unfortunately, what benefits like Wemby's legacy more, like for his career?
I think winning a gold medal with France,
the champion. Yeah. No, I don't mean like one gold, like the France win like 3 Olympics, or Wemby wins 3 NBA championships.
I'll say this. I think for France winning 3 Olympics, knowing that what Team USA is and what the rest of the world is, it's to me is more impressive than him winning NBA championships.
But you know why though, Jalen? The reason why you say that,
just because I think Ginobili winning with Argentina is more impressive than what he did with San Antonio.
And the reason why you say that, Jalen, is because you're from another country, and other countries value the Olympics more, way more.
No, it's just that I just think.
Now, if you look at what you look at what Wemby came into the league as, Wemby came into the league as the next one. So him winning 3 gold medals and not winning an NBA championship, he'll be considered a bust.
I mean, sure. If he wins just the gold medal,
I don't know. Me neither, Lo.
Me neither.
I hope not.
Me neither. But that's what I have to listen to Chris Broussard tell me that if he has an Olajuwon career, he's a bust. Stuff like that. Okay, so if he doesn't win an NBA championship and he wins 3 gold medals, nobody gonna care about the 3 gold medals for the French team.
You know what? Things don't choke. He'll never, in all likelihood, face a team in the NBA as stacked relative to his team as he would facing a Team USA team.
Nobody's going to care about, and nobody's going to care about them
I would
French.
say Americans, we don't care enough about.
Yeah, nobody's going to care about them French, those French gold medals. What they're going to care about is he got bounced in the semifinals in the Western Conference. That's what they're going to care about.
Another hypothetical, just one word answer for everyone. You have a 5-year window to win an NBA ring. If you fail, it's life in prison. Which team are you choosing to coach? Just
5 years?
Yes, 5 years.
Oklahoma City.
OKC. I mean, for 5 years, San Antonio.
It's one word. It's one word, Jalen.
Sorry. Yeah. OKC.
Okay. OKC. Low.
Thunder.
Everyone picked the Thunder. None of you picking the actual champions, Boston. Just hoping you can get one more. Interesting. Okay.
Oh man.
I'll ask Low this because he's a Lakers fan. How do you feel about Bronny signing a fully guaranteed contract?
That's crazy. That late in the second round. But I already knew that was gonna happen. That they were literally pushing for that anyway. So I already knew it was gonna happen.
Bronny's a good player.
Yeah, he basically giving that contract to LeBron for real, but it's cool. You just paying
LeBron
an extra.
But it's not
anything. If Rich Paul does not scare agents, if he does not scare teams off of drafting Bronny James goes before 55. I bet a lot of money on that.
But he wouldn't sign a fully. He wouldn't sign a fully.
He'd be on a 2-way somewhere,
bro. We're talking marketing with Klay, marketing with Bronny.
Yeah. Okay. That angle. Yeah. I thought you was just talking off merit of play. Okay.
None of this is merit. He averaged like 5 points per game. That doesn't mean shit. No, but he's a good player, man. Like I'm tired of people talking shit about him.
He's solid. Yeah. A couple years away. OJ Simpson said who comes out the West next season. It seems like everyone here picked OKC. Except Low who picked Denver. Right. So more or less, everyone has OKC and one Denver. Reggie Reg said I hate America and American foods. Never forget. Sure. Also, NP13. Just to be an open hater, I can't wait to see the shot quality in Dallas. It's about to be some YMCA level of dumb shot selection over there. Well, they lost Tim Hardaway, so they just replaced his dumb shots with Klay's. So
I wonder how many plays they'll run for Klay with Luka and Kyrie there.
Well, ideally, Kid implements a lot more off-ball stuff than he has, but has he shown that before? I don't know. So now we're hoping for things that haven't really happened to transpire. I don't know. So we'll see. Coach Sondo wanted to point out that James Wiseman has gone to the Pacers. That's a great move. James Wiseman, he's gonna be that starting center soon, man. James Wiseman, he's a really good player. So.
I don't care what you're paying him. I don't care if you paid him crayons. He's terrible at basketball, bro.
You're such a hater.
But I'm not a hater.
You think you suck too,
I'm the host today, Chill. Don't come to me. I'll put you backstage. I'll put you backstage right now, Chill. Don't do that.
He was off the bench for the Pistons. Think about that 10 times a day.
Irrelevant. KB, he's mad at you, Pen. He said they paid him that money thinking he'd be back, but he ruptured his Achilles, talking about his 2019 max extension. He 100% earned that contract. He was playing his best hoops when he got it. You're just chatting BS right now. He's not happy with you. So
I don't care.
KB.
That is true. He did earn that contract.
Yeah, the 2019 extension, he definitely earned.
Yeah, he earned the contract. It's just unfortunately he tore his Achilles rehabbing from the ACL. DSG Piccolo said at the end of the day, we have to blame CJ McCollum and Grant Williams for this, but it is entertaining to watch. He's talking about them being the head of the NBA.
Signing the CBA.
Which, shout out to them, I guess. NP13 said, trying to quantify a player's value in comparison to an entire team's revenue and their contribution to the revenue's growth over their tenure is nasty work. There's infinitely too many variables to fairly assess it like that.
I mean, sure, there's a lot of variables, but that player is a key variable.
I'm about to say
I'm pretty sure you can boil it down to an accurate number. I don't think we got it. I don't think we got down to that number in this chat, but there is a way to do it.
Probably, maybe. Number 41 said Klay starting isn't as worrying as it sounds. We always rotate Luka and Kyrie. One of them two will always stay in. For example, Luka, Klay, Najee, PJ, and Derek Lively. Still 3+ defenders, but more shooting. So just talking about staggering lineups, something, we all understand. MP13, 00 Dom, RJ Lewis all became members. Thank you to you guys. Thickest Pilot 9 said, just like old times, shout out to Low, you've been missed.
Low down is in the house. What up, Low down?
Thanks, man.
I almost ain't let Low up because he came between me and Dub, because we were fighting. Yeah, I
you
almost
break
say
it
let
up
low
like
up because I'm still so mad, that he came between us. And
Lo,
Yeah, that's
you out
crazy,
here breaking up homes, Lo? Is that what you out
yeah,
here doing?
crazy.
For real?
Home record low?
it's all because of
Home
Low. So,
record low.
when I
So
saw
it's
Low
really low
backstage,
down.
I was like, do I let him up, knowing how much
Low
of a
is
home
really
wrecker
low
he is?
down. Low out here low out here home
Yeah,
wrecking, so
but
he is really low
We,
down.
we
I
started
have to
out on
put it- I
really
have to
bad
put it.
terms, but I'll just give you a shout out. You have a
Crazy.
very awesome background. It's a great
background.
podcasting background.
Low
I got
down.
books, so I'm just gonna say something nice.
I thought
Yeah,
you meant
I
like
mean-
my. I thought you meant like the other type of background, but I
Oh,
get
he
that.
don't know
Like
your
your
background.
basketball acumen? No, I mean like legitimately like
Yeah,
the
your background.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's a pretty cool background. It's a pretty cool background. But yeah, I didn't want to let Low up, but I felt like I had to because I'm not too petty, so I did it. Matt said James Wiseman is now a pacer. Great move.
Hey,
No
you
matter
start?
what Penn says. No matter what Penn says. And then King Dragon said, to be honest, Dallas's fate relies on Luka losing to Giannis so he can sit his ass down and recover while going on some LeBron James Miami Days diet. So some
Crazy.
nice Balco.
Bro, that
Low.
super chat is worth more than James Wiseman.
Hater. He said, Low, what are the chances looking like for Jokic for another deep playoff run?
It's gotten worse because of what you call it, but I do because they lost KCP, but I do believe that like in a normal scenario they can get by Minnesota if like MPJ doesn't go like crazy cold and Jokic doesn't like shoot whatever he shot from three.
Why do you think he went cold like that though, Lo? I mean, that was largely due to them being able to solve that problem that the Lakers couldn't solve, and they were bigger.
He was missing
on
wide
the
open
wing.
shots. What?
And
Yeah, but the open shots are different, man. Different
yes.
vibes.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, different vibes.
My bad.
They come in a different way. They come in a different way.
We still talking like that. Okay, my bad.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Not much.
Not all open shots are crazy.
But next up is wait, Jalen, you want to shout out from the logo today? I know you like Jalen.
Oh yeah, friend of the logo, 6 p.m. Pull up.
Yeah, it's a much better show now. New and improved show.
Mhm.
Piccolo came in, buzzer beating super chat. Apparently, the Heat and DeMar have mutual interest, and then he also said, "What are the Lakers going to do?" Asking Low, Low, what are the Lakers?
They need to more so focus on Brooklyn Nets players. I don't like everybody else.
Cam Johnson.
The Larry Markkinen sweepstakes is probably going to come at too steep of a price for them to go after him, and so I'd say just go after Cam Johnson and DFS
And avoid the Denver Nuggets, and then you're in business.
No, JJ Redick, the new coach, so
He's smart. He'll get some good role players.
yeah, they know the game plan now. But
you might be able to get a 5 in the deadline. Just a sidebar.
Possibly. Open Gym is now on playback. I hope Domo's there. I don't actually know, but Open Gym on playback. We're going to be talking more about free agency, so tap into that from the logo on later. I'm now willing to shout out that show as it has leveled up exponentially. Thank you for Low joining. Thank you for Penn being up here.
Low down,
Jalen,
my man.
everyone.
Low down in the house.
We'll see you guys tomorrow. Yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow. I think
Yes,
Ron is
sir.
back tomorrow. I think Ox is back tomorrow. So if you didn't like me hosting, you won't see it again tomorrow. So there you go. There's that. Goodbye, everyone.